Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Literally a guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that to lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to PSGL once again for the E-Series Championship. Now we're at the penultimate round of the season here, of course, at Las Vegas. We've been away for a bit, but we're back once again now, Josh. And, well, we've got two rounds, Las Vegas and Brazil. Brilliant for qualifying, brilliant for racing. We've got a championship fight. This is going to be an exciting 2 weeks, isn't it?
Certainly will, especially considering we are going to Las Vegas. If any team's going to take a gamble here today, it would be absolutely fitting for the circuit. Of course, it's the newest circuit to the game, if I do. Am I correct in saying that?
It is, yeah. One of the newest, along with Qatar.
I was about to say, I know there's another one, but I was thinking Portimao because we've only raced there once. Besides the point, it is one of the newest circuits. It should be very entertaining to see how these drivers are somewhat going to be able to facet around here. It's not often a circuit picked, of course. It had a couple of problems at the start of the game's life cycle, but they've all been amended. The track limits shouldn't necessarily be too much of a problem for the drivers. More of the balls being a potential problem for the drivers because they are very close to you around this entire circuit.
Of course, it's definitely not an easy circuit to get your head around, and also to add in, you've got to be very careful with your racecraft because DRS is OP, especially along that straight down from turn 12 down towards turn 14. So drivers as well need to be careful where they're placing the car in that part of the circuit. We'll have a quick look at the standings after round number 9, and we can see it's Ferrari who lead once again here in the series after a bit of a terrible start at the the opening part of the season. They got themselves now up onto that top position, of course, leading Williams by 33 points, and also because it's the penultimate round, if Ferrari can outscore Williams by 30 points, and I believe it'd be outscoring F7R by around 45 points, they can win the championship here tonight, but that is very, very unlikely. And of course, we've got S7R, brilliant job this season, the top community team to be at the moment in third, with Race Clutch in fourth. Then we have, of course, RHG, who are no longer with us, in P5. Then Veloce Academy in sixth on 232. SRC Esports just 1 point back on 231. Then we have TF10 in a bit of a no man's land in P8. And then, of course, we have Tomasheng in 9th, Novus in 10th, and then ET8 in P11, of course, making their debut round last week in Mexico. And looking through it here, obviously, Josh, in the last couple of weeks, TES have actually been turning up quite well. They had a P8 in Mexico. Yes. They had a top 4 qualifying back of them. And do you reckon tonight's the night for that team?
I don't know whether it's going to be the night, but it could certainly be a step over to the right direction. I feel like a good part of that could be down to their lineup they've got. They've got Nelson Alves and Flores both in the car tonight, really looking to try and maximise the potential of what they can see out on the circuit. But of course, they're not the only drivers on circuit. We do have the rest of them. We've got TF10 with Alex Santana and Daniele Prodi, F7R with Tycho Hardy and Jerry Van Bussel. Tycho Hardy, I tell you, he has been an absolute staple of this series. He might as well rename himself E-Series driver because he's always been there, hasn't he? He's been absolutely fantastic as well. Nicholas Longate and Istvan Pukki both driving for Ferrari, with Novus having Timo Zlenkovic, Wilson Hall, Race Clutch having Lenny Papinta, Lilian Durbacourt, and then of course we do have a Veloce Academy with Simeon. Help me out with that surname. I'm trying. Lekomsky. I will get it one day. It might not be on this game cycle, but I will get it. And Leo Lund. SRC with Ricardo Benzoni and Louis Welsh. ET8 with Zalan Bida and Alan Bajnak. And Williams with Ishmael Fassi and Kian Gorendorp. We do have a couple of returning names from the F1 Sim Racing. How long do you reckon it's going to take for them to get readjusted back to this game? Because obviously they run an esports build, it's slightly different. Do you think it's going to take them any sort of preparation, or do you reckon the practice they would have done for this race has somewhat reattuned them back to this format?
I don't think it'll take them that long. They're some of the best in the business, and for drivers at that level, you can see them. Of course, many of them they get used to being on a 1 FPS. We know there's always that battle between 60 and 120. They probably swap quite often, and I think now they're just adjusted to it. They get onto it, change it, and just drive, and they get adjusted probably very quickly. So I mean, I'm excited to see what, of course, Nicholas and Ishmael can do. Both doing very well in the F1 Sim Racing Championship, of course. This circuit's one of those to take part next time, isn't it? In event 3, I believe, which
Yes.
means this is a critical race for those who are also practicing, because we have development drivers in pretty much all the teams that are a esports team or one of the F1 Pro Series teams. So they'll be working on probably maybe trying out a different setup, trying out different strategies. So that means we might not see some of them right near the top because they're doing other things.
Yes, but at the same time as well, we can see those who aren't necessarily affiliated with the Formula One teams take a little bit more of a risk, taking a little bit more of a gamble, really trying to go out there and prove themselves to those F1 teams, thinking, I'm quick enough to be into one of your families. Surely, if I'm able to put out a good result and it's going to be better than your drivers here, it's going to be better than what they could potentially do in LAN.
Yeah.
Surely, the teams, the managers will be looking at them thinking, okay, this Wilson Hall, he's got potential. Or, Jerry Van Bussel, he's certainly got a solid run on him. I liked what he did around Vegas. We'll keep a close eye on him. And it really helps build those interconnections, let's say, between, these community teams and the esports teams. We know a couple of them somewhat work as feeder teams for a couple of the big boys. But at the same time, being able to establish yourself as that driver, as Tycho Hardy very much has, an F7R driver, is a great stepping stone to be able to move on and really try and push yourself to better things.
Of course, Tycho Hardy, he's been a staple of the F7R team. I think without him, they wouldn't be nowhere near third position in the standing. So of course, he'll be one of them trying to perform his best to have teams watching to see what he can do, and maybe in the future try and join one of those esports teams. I think he's definitely got the potential to do so. But we are heading our way through now in towards the first part of qualifying for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and we'll see what the drivers can do and when they'll take to the track. It shouldn't be too long before they head out. Normally they head out quite quickly once we get our way through in towards the session now, as we can wait for it to load. And there we are, of course. Late nights here in Las Vegas. It's brilliant, Josh, isn't it, to have a bit of a late night race. We don't have many of them at all on this game, so we'll see. We'll see what it'll be like tonight in the wet. No,
in the
night. In the night. There we are.
In the night. Well, Del Starvez has already put a set of the intermediate tyres on. Of course, it's something we're probably going to see here. Don't worry, don't reattune. It's not necessarily raining just yet. I'm going to go down with a watering can afterwards and try and, change the game up a little bit. But no, go down that intermediate lap, make sure your hardware's all connected, it all works properly, make sure all the settings are to your liking, because, this is a very complete game. It's a very fun game. Let's use the term fun. It does have some features. It does have some interesting quirks. And one of them might be that your wheel just doesn't want to work for a lap or two. So it is imperative that they do go out and not waste a set of tyres, go out on the intermediates, give it a little bit of a cheeky go. And I know, Dylan, it's amazing what I can do when I actually decide to try and give insight.
It's very rare, isn't it, Josh? I think we all know that.
It is rare. Normally I'm talking about hamsters and gerbils, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we don't need to bring up the hamsters because hopefully there'll be no safety cars tonight.
I'm hoping not. But then again, last night in PSGL F2 was a bit of a different story. I'm not sure if it'll be like that here tonight, but we'll see, of course, once this race gets underway. But first, we have our 3 qualifying sessions to get through, and Nelson there missing his braking point quite largely at turn number 7 at that chicane. Definitely don't want to do that when you're on your lap time.
It's easy enough to do. I was just running around on time trial on a controller. Just to give the viewers, if you're not exactly aware of what an average driver would be able to do around here, I was doing 137s. We're going to see.
I don't know.
That is not good.
Oh.
That is very much not good. I don't think I actually hit the apex of turn 7 once.
I'm sure they're in the 120s, aren't they? Like the 29s or something like that.
Probably.
I don't know much about this circuit. I've commentated here once back in, I think it was like January, so I don't know much about this circuit. It's a nice circuit, though, so it's great to be back here, of course, and being able to commentate over such a brilliant grid. As we can see, Nelson Alves now head his way through in towards turn number 14 to begin his first lap of the session, of course, on a set of the intermediate tyres, so this lap really means nothing in the grand scheme of things, unless all the people behind him decide not to set a lap time or set a very, very slow lap time. So we'll see what Nelson can do, of course. This track, very low grip. Turn 1 is treacherous, especially when you're on a set of the hard tyres heading your way into turn 1. But as he heads his way through, of course, this time in quali on a set of the Inters, he's just been a little bit careful on the throttle there. Of course, DRS down towards turn number 5, where you, of course, end this first sector here. We'll see what Nelson could do as this lap gets underway. Obviously, we know that this lap means nothing, but it's always nice to have a bit of a run-through of the circuit that the drivers are taking part on.
So we'll have a little bit of a look to see what he's going to be able to somewhat put up on the board. As Dylan says, my lap time's not average. I'll be so honest. I know it was absolutely abysmal. I have set a faster lap time. I do just want to give everyone a fair warning. I have set quicker, but unfortunately today
36.
clearly wasn't the day. It was actually a 35, thank you very much. I'm going to take credit where I can get it, thank you. But no, I'm assuming Nelson's going to go quicker on the intermediate type because he's just built different. He is just constructed alternatively in comparison to myself. But we have mentioned this long DRS straight all the way from turn 12 to turn 14. But you've also got to consider the exit you get out of 15 and 16 over that curb. It can be absolutely pivotal and crucial to be able to try and maximise not only your lap time, but a potential overtaking opportunity with a slipstream and with a little bit of battery deployment. You could very easily find yourself going side by side through 17 and finding potentially a position even before the braking zone of turn 1. And good evening to you as well, Jess and chat.
Yeah, good evening, Jess. Well, welcome in. Nice to have you in the chats as always. Of course, as we can see, Nelson Alves now head up towards the line, and it will be a 136.085 set on the board. Next, we'll go on board with Louis Welch here, heading his way down into turn number 14. Of course, on a set of the Inters, part of the SRC team tonight. Joining him will be Riccardo Benzoni, OP, I think it was OP_Benza back in the day, before he moved his way over onto the PC side. We'll see what can Louis Welch do as he heads to the line, goes with a 36.3. Then we've got a couple more cars to come through. We've got Flyers Fires here, a driver I haven't seen for a long, long time here on this game, so it's great to see him back racing with us. He goes to 4th with a 36.6 as Lillian Derbacourt popped himself into 3rd with a 36.480.
Now, something tells me none of these drivers are going to be slower than my lap. I'm a little bit hurt by that one, you know. I might have to sit there and learn how to play on a controller for a little bit.
That was slower.
I've done it. I've beat someone. It's not fair competition in the slightest, but I'll take it. But no, you know, these drivers, they're not actually pushing on these intermediate tyres, not even in the slightest. They've just literally gone out, just have a little bit of fun, make sure everything goes proper well, let's be honest, for their hardware, their software, whatever telemetry they might be sending back to engineers, just making sure all that works.
Yeah.
End of the day, that's all they need to go out for, because there's still a long amount of time out available on the circuit. 12 minutes 30. That's enough to get free runs in easily. Not that all the drivers are going to necessarily choose to take free runs, but if they do decide they want to, they could easily fit them in.
Looking on the chat and Dylan there. Dylan does not like you today, does he, Josh? What is Dylan on today?
I don't know. It might be because I mentioned I'll talk about hamsters again. I've heard he's a little bit scared of hamsters.
Oh, well. I'll be a bit worried if you're scared of hamsters. I don't think they'll hurt a fly. Never mind a person. Never mind a Ferrari sports development driver.
Have you seen some of them? They're absolutely vicious, mate. They're evil, I'm telling you.
Right, so we've got around 11 minutes to go until we end this session, which means in around a minute's time we'll see a few cars head out onto circuit and get out on a set of the softs and make some representable lap times, which are about 5 or 6 seconds quicker than what Josh can set on a set of the softs.
Yes. I think you're being very generous with 5 or 6 seconds, to be completely honest with you, David, because I'm expecting 7 or 8 seconds quicker than whatever I was going to be able to pop out. But no, we are seeing the drivers swap over off that intermediate compounded tyre. And now it's just going to be a bit of a waiting game.
Yep, as usual. About a minute to go. They're all just sitting there until one of them decides to go out. And that is no one going out. That is teammate going back in towards the pit lane. So shouldn't be too long until we see them all head out onto circuit. But a team to keep our eye on today, of course, is Ferrari. 33 points leading ahead of Williams Esports. Williams, bit of a dismal round back in Mexico with a P7 and a P9 in the end. Definitely not the round they would have wanted, and being outscored by both Ferrari and F7R. As already people heading out to circuit.
We've got
ET8s.
Yes, we got action. Alan leading the way for both the ET8 drivers. Is this going to be a catalyst for the rest of them to come out of the pits? Or are they kind of just sitting there in the pit lane thinking, well, I don't want to go out yet. I could save a little bit more time. We do see a Williams roll out the pit lane, and I do believe that'll be Kean Gordondorp, because he is always the first Williams at the pit box.
There he is. Kean heading out onto circuit, looking to do a good job again tonight for the Williams team. Always around in that top 5, even in the podiums on most occasions here in the E-Series Championship. So I'm excited to see what he can do and try and get Williams to get themselves back onto the top of the standings, heading into the final round, of course, at Brazil, which I think, Josh, will be an amazing round. Brazil, it's a brilliant circuit, and to have to close a championship there makes it even more interesting. We know in the past that championships have ended, I wouldn't say controversially, but they've ended surprisingly at that circuit, haven't they?
Yes, there's certainly been a couple of moments. I personally will never forget the time Sebastian Vettel crawled his way all the way through the field, go up to behind Michael Schumacher, my icon, and Schumacher waved him past to go on and win. It's ironic now you think about it, a Mercedes letting a Red Bull pass so the Red Bull can win the title. But anyway, let's move swiftly on from that after the controversy with Lando Norris earlier, which should have been removed completely. Me and Nathan was talking earlier about that one. Both of us agree the lap shouldn't have standards.
Hang on, what?
And honestly, I reckon he should be relegated down to P20.
There we are. Josh putting words into my mouth. There we go. Right. Alan's on track, but I noticed from my side he's lagging quite a lot, or at least he was. I'm hoping that's not an issue my end, because if it is, I'm sorry. And if I cause any sort of desync to the session, I'm very sorry. I know it happened before. I don't want it to happen again. As of course, Alan is out first, along with his teammate Zalan Beda. Of course, ET8 coming in very late into this season. Round 9 was their first appearance after the withdrawal of R8G. So I'm interested to see what this team can do, of course. Driving in the Sabre car, I'm very interested to see maybe get themselves up and towards that top 10. I'm sure Bogdan Moldovan qualified, I think it was 13th last time out in Mexico and finished in P12. So very close, of course, to that top 10. But now we can see the first lap, Josh, getting underway on a set of the softs.
Absolutely here, just picking the apex nice and early on this first left-hander before it goes to turn 2. Not really a corner, over to turn 3 and then turn 4 right on the exit. You want to run it as close to the wall on that left-hand side as possible because the DRS opens so early. You don't necessarily think it's already activated, but of course these drivers will know the exact millimeter or they can end up pressing a button for you. Break it very, very tight there for that turn 5. It can be very awkward, very technical before trying to pick out your braking spot here for 7, halfway through 6. It's just such a challenging, different circuit that these drivers really have to contend with. You've got the walls of Jeddah, you've got the straight line speed of Monza, but you've got the braking zones of Aqua Minerale. It is certainly something to behold. Before flying it all the way through turn 10 and 11, unlike a certain McLaren driver, able to keep it on track very, very well before braking here into turn 12, making sure he runs it as close to that exit wall as possible to open up the car a little bit quicker to get back on the power for this very, very long back straight. The engine will max out right about now, and we're just going to have to listen to this poor little Cybercar squealing all the way until the braking zone of 14.
Yep. A long squeal here from this Cybercar as he heads his way into the braking zone there, braking just before the 100-metre border, throws the car in, hops that curb on the exit as he heads his way through. Out of turn number 16 now, the final corner on this circuit, turn number 17, where we will see Alain Banajak conclude his lap. We'll see what he can set on the board. The first time on the SOT will be at 131.155. His teammate comes across as well with a 131.607 there. 5/10 separates Zalan and Alain, so hopefully a bit more of an improvement can be made by the second ET8.
Absolutely. It's slowly going to keep rolling down as well. We will have to just remind everyone track evolution is certainly something we're going to have to keep an eye on throughout the course of this race. The track isn't necessarily the grippiest. It's a lot better than it is in real life, but there is still an awkward twitch throughout the majority of corners. So the more laps the drivers do, the more rubber they lay down on the circuit, the better the cars will handle, the more they'll have to grip onto throughout the course of this qualifying session through Q1, Q2, Q3. As long as there's not any rain on the horizon, theoretically, the track should always get quicker, as we do see the Ferraris putting it 1-2, but we do have so many drivers coming up towards the line now. Let's see if they can hold on to it.
We do indeed. We've got the two F7Rs heading their way through to the line. Tycho goes into 4th, and it will be Joe Van Bussel into P6 there, just behind the back of Riccardo Benzoni. Sonny Papinta goes up into P4 for Race Clutch. Then we've got a few more cars left to come through. We'll see who is next. We've got Alex Santana here. What can he do for TF10? Goes into P11. Then we'll have his teammate who's a little bit further back. What about Szymon Lukomski here, racing for the Veloce Academy team? What can he do as he heads his way through up towards turn 1? It will be P8 for him. Floris Weiser only managing 14th, and Louis Welch in P13. We've got a few more cars left to come through. We got Leo Lund, who goes up into 15th there, and we've got Daniele Parodi, who didn't set a lap time there. I'm not sure if he's on one now. I don't think he is. No, he's not. So no lap time set by Daniele Parodi, which means at the moment, after the first runs in Q1, we've got Floris Fires, Wilson Hall, Zalan Bida, Tima Zelenkovic, and Daniele Parodi in the drop zone, with Leo Lund not being that far away.
No, it is looking very nip and tuck down there, isn't it? But of course, we'll have to keep an eye out because these drivers will be looking to go again. And if they're able to pick up any sort of slipstream from any of their competitors, they'll be more than happy to take it, more than happy to take an advantage because it can gain you so much time around here. But someone I do really quickly want to point out was Ismail Fassi. Hopped himself up into P2, split over 2 Fryer drivers. Not necessarily where Williams would want. They would want to lock out the front row and just cruise to an easy victory to catch back up to Ferrari and re-overtake them in the standings. But as far as things go, a very solid lap time from all 4 of the drivers from the top 2 teams here.
Indeed, and Keane Godendorp thinks his 130.7 is safe. I would say I agree. I think a 130.7 is safe at this current point. In qualifying, there you can see his gap is around, what, 0.5 to P16.
Yeah.
It's nearly a second to P19. I don't think he's got to worry that much here for the rest of this session. As many drivers also looking to retire up there. Nicholas Longue also being done and dusted on his 30.5, and that is 1.3 seconds faster than Tima Zelenkovic. You know, it's not very often we see gaps that big in a field this close. So Nicholas Longue looking very strong here at this part of qualifying, and NVR looking to be on a bit more of a back foot. TES have picked it up a bit, but NVR haven't really, gotten themselves off the mark. Obviously, TES I know had a top 10 last week with, I think it was Modesto Mena in Mexico. They had a top 3 in quali in Imola with Nelson Alves, and of course Jenna Halliday as well, doing quite good. I think he topped Q1 in that qualifying, and NVR haven't really done that well as well in these past couple of rounds. It's not nice to say, because it's not nice to see a team not fighting for any points, but they're yet again in a bit of a sticky situation. They got a 31-4, a 31-8, and they've still got to find a lot of time to get themselves even thinking about being at the drop zone. Never mind all those behind and ahead also making vast improvements.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable situation for them, both as a driver and as the entire team. They would have come into a series expecting to be able to get a little bit more representative. You take, for example, the likes of SRC, which qualified. They've been able to pull off some miraculous drives, getting always a solid handful of points. But Novus, whether it's not being able to finish the race or having slight little errors here and there, overall, it's cost them out this, the 9 rounds have already done so far. It certainly has. And, as horrible as it is to say, they do just have to pick it up for the last 2 rounds.
I've got to say, TES with Nelson Alves, I think that's a little bit of a gamble. A little bit too much of a gamble, I think. He's a 10th off the drop zone. I can't see that being safe at all. That is an odd one, but we'll see. But I can't see that. I think he'll be out with that, genuinely. He's a 10th and he's 1.01 tenths off of Floris Fires, his teammate, who's in the bottom 5. Bit of a blunder there, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I suppose we're only going to have to wait and see, aren't we? Certainly not the safest, back down on track, to say the very least. But, if he feels like he's given it his all and that he wouldn't necessarily be able to improve, if he's not expecting the track to really improve too much either, what's the point in going again? I mean, yeah, it can be a little bit more practice. Yes, it can be, it's one of those. So I could somewhat understand why he's done it. Out of the basis of not necessarily feeling great. Maybe he doesn't like the circuit. Those are sort of things play into the motivation of these drivers. But at the same time, you are racing in E-Series for a prize pool.
Yeah.
Representing one of the top 11 teams in the F1 game.
Of course, and I still think that is a bit of maybe it could have been a glitch or something, because surely no driver would do that. I've never seen anyone take that much of a risk. But we can see, of course, now the drivers starting their final laps of the session. Zalan Bida heading out in towards turn number 1 at the current time, through turn 2, 3, and turn number 4 before getting some DRS in towards turn number 5. We'll see what he can do in this first sector, which ends just after turn number 9 as he heads his way down in towards the braking zone, braking late, getting the car turned in, try not to hit the wall on the exit. Very nice so far here from the ET8 driver as he heads his way round into turn 6, and then, of course, braking zone at turn 7, 8, and then, of course, into the left-hander at turn number 9. Looking good so far here from Zalan Bida as he heads his way to the end of that first sector. We'll see what he can do. How much of an improvement it is here for Zalan. Needs at least 5 tenths to get himself out of the bottom 5, and he's up by 2.5, Josh. So maybe he could find his way through into that top 15.
Yeah, potentially, but we can see many other drivers being able to put in a solid lap slightly further down the order, being hopping on board, jumping through a couple of them. They're all looking very strong. They've not had any large errors throughout first sector. It could very much be a nip and tuck, well, race to try and get through into Q2, depending on what they're able to pull out. I will just have a quick look over at the data, and I do believe Floris has decided to go out on a set of used tyres as well.
Interesting.
Floris and Lillian both on a set of used tyres.
Bit of an odd one when you're in the drop zone, but we'll see if that can work here for Floris, of course. But we'll see what can Zalan Bida do as he heads his way up towards the line, pops himself up into P17. The first ET8 driver is out of the session. Daniele Parodi is also out of qualifying. No lap time set by him. We'll go on board now with Timo Zelenkovic heading his way down into turn number 14. Also in that drop zone there, he needs to find 6 tenths in on this lap to even think about getting himself out of that bottom 5. And he's invalidated at turn 15. That is him done here in this session, and actually Nelson probably might be safe at the moment, as we can see Wilson Hall heading down in towards turn number 14. He's only up by 1/100th of a second here. He's also having a bit of a struggle here in qualifying. Louis Welch goes into P11, Joe Van Bussel into P5, Debacor into P number 4. What can Wilson Hall do? He heads back into the pit lane. What can Floris Fires do? He's down by 12 seconds, and there we are.
Yeah.
They're through. None of the bottom 5 found an improvement, not one of them.
Well, there you go. He's got the cojones to do it. He was calling a bluff, and he certainly managed to sneak himself through there in a very charitable manner, to say the very least. But a little update on what happened to Floris there. Ran it a little bit too deep, missed a braking point into turn 12, had a lockup, ended up just running into the escape road. Very, very unfortunate for Floris. But at the end of the day, P16, there's still an ample amount of opportunity to work your way up through the grid. Especially given, it's Vegas. There's a lot of opportunity with the DRS, with a bit of slipstream, with battery. All they've got to do is just hope for a clean race start.
Of course, and well, that Q1 session definitely puts MVR in an even worse position, because remember, even though they're not done 10th, TES and MVR are still fighting for position with 2 points separating them. So for those teams, that still means a lot to them indeed, getting that 9th or 10th position. But we'll have a look now at the final classification of the Q1 session. It will be Nicholas Longate for Ferrari, who tops it with a 30.5. Then it will be Ismail Fassi in second, followed by Istvan Pukki in third, Lilian Delacour in P4, Jerry Van Bussel in P5, Keen Godendup in sixth. Then we'll have Lenny Pepinta seventh, Taka Hardy out, Ricardo Benzoni ninth, and Lekomsky rounded out the top 10. Then the drivers that we lost in that session were Floris Fires for TES, Zalan Bida for ET8, Wilson Hall and Timo Zelenkovic for NVR, and Daniele Parodi for TF10. So there we have it. NVR, ETA, TS and TF10 out of Q1. Or at least one driver at least from each out of Q1.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting heading into Q2. I'm really seeing which drivers are going to be able to push it back a little bit harder to try and get through into Q3, because to me, this might be one of the best opportunities these community teams have. Mm-hmm. You're catching, the likes of Ferrari, Williams, in between Formula 1 sim racing rounds. They won't necessarily be the best prepped. Either was forced to put in, with no disrespect, a slightly weaker lineup, or try and get the drivers back over into this format, into this game, and really get them sorted out and working an optimal level, which I'm sure if anyone has ever raced any sort of sim racing game before, getting to that optimal level somewhat feels impossible sometimes, and it could very much be one of those problems. We know very much that my time trial lap around here is not optimal in the slightest. But these drivers, there's a reason they're paid the big bucks. It's because they are so consistent at finding that level and delivering on it. So for me, it's going to be very interesting to see how these community teams are really going to try and push themselves that a little bit higher. Perhaps you could see a bit of an upset.
Indeed, and I think F7R have got a lot of expectation, I think, which they didn't have at the start of the season, which will put more pressure on them because they're third in the championship, because they've been one of the most consistent teams. They're the team with the least drivers finishing outside the top 10. That says something. That they've got a lot of expectation to end off the season, which they've never really had before. So Toko and Jerry haven't been used to this type of pressure that they've got on them now. They're realistically fighting for a championship. There's 45 points separating them and Ferrari. It's unlikely, but it's still more than possible. In these last 2 rounds, there's still 126 points available, which could easily get them up to the top. Of course, that would mean Ferrari would need to lose, finish literally DNF in both races, and F7R get a 1-2. But still, it just shows that a good result from F7R can put them back towards where they were before, and maybe even challenge Williams.
Yeah, realistically, you sit there and you think about it, and it seems outrageously far-fetched. F7R beating Williams at this point, no chance, right? But you take a little bit of a more intricate look. You look at the consistent finishes. You look at how these teams, such as Ferrari, such as Williams, have had really great point hauls for maybe 2, 3, 4 races, and then they've either been on par or subpar for the remainder of races. It's been very interesting to see those teams which are consistently within the points, not necessarily at the top of the points, not necessarily battling for, the podium places, but getting the P4s, getting the P6s, getting the P7s over and over again. It's really helped them build up a tally of points, really being able to elevate them in the championship. And even at one point, F7R looked to be one of the teams to beat here, and it was absolutely fantastic. But when it all comes down to crunch time, as said before, there's a reason why those drivers are at the likes of Ferrari and at the likes of Williams. They're simply the best.
Indeed, and we've got another community team with a driver on circuit, ET8, obviously joining very late in towards this championship. One of the OG teams, I think, here in this scene, a team everyone knows very, very well indeed. So it's great to see them racing in the E-Series Championship for the first time ever here in Series number 3. As we can see, Alan Banishak now heading his way through in towards turn number 9. The end of the first sector will be a 43.900. Only him and Louis Welch are on track, setting a lap time at this current point as he heads his way into turn number 12. Just heavy onto the brakes, back onto the power. Gets that DRS, of course, in a little bit of time around turn number 13. You get that DRS as you head your way down to turn number 14, where you go flat out. And the cars are screaming for the life of them as you get to about max speed now, when you're going to take that another... Well, what is that? Half a kilometre, maybe longer than that. I'm not sure about a length of the circuit, or at least the length of that straight.
Well, as long as you don't measure it in feet and inches, I'm sure the local people won't mind. But no, at the end of the day, it can be very difficult. It can be very challenging to somewhat keep the temps under control as well, as we will see Alan diving it back into the pit lane here. And it wouldn't surprise me if Lou Welsh does a very similar thing. But the engine temps can be a significant problem around here, running so close to the cars in front, using their DRS, using the slipstream. It can waft that little bit of extra dirty air, that hot air coming from the engine in front, into your, engine air intake, overheats your engine, you're going to be down on power a little bit. So if you see anyone sort of darting out the way of the slipstream during the main race, or maybe even during the qualifying session, if they're going out in sort of a duo, like the Williams cars did slightly earlier in Q2, you could expect them to be trying to cool down their engine a little bit more, because you do need it at an optimal temperature to be able to extract the most amount of top speed from these cars, which is such a critical point around the circuit.
Of course, as we have a few more drivers now heading out onto circuit, the first being Nelson Alves, of course, looking to do well tonight here in the TES team. We've got Nicholas Longe, Riccardo Benzoni, and then all those 10th down as well, heading out onto circuit now to begin their first Q2 runs. Of course, on a set of the new soft tyre, some on a set of the used, and we'll see that once we see the lap times come through. But as we head our way through, a team we haven't really spoken about much today is Veloce Academy, of course, with Szymon Lukomski and Leo Lund, two very young, quick drivers, racing, of course, normally in the F2 Championship in the main season. Obviously, Lukomski picked up pole last night in Brazil, but unfortunately could not deliver that to a result. And Leo Lund was looking to do well before he came to contact with, I think it was Sergio Sabrina. So these two have proven they can fight for very good points, and hopefully tonight they can get a bit of a spring into action, because Veloce Academy, don't get me wrong, they have done very well. They've had a win, of course, this season early on. I think it was round 6 at Britain. But apart from that,
Yes.
they haven't really had many notable results, have they? They've had one driver in the top 10 every round bar 2.
Yes, it's somewhat been a bit of a slow-paced one for them, but you take a step back, you look at it, you think, right, these are very young drivers. The fact that they're even able to compete at this level with the level of maturity they have is ridiculous. You think about the likes of Nico Benz, Otis Lawrence. They're another 2 great examples. Otis being part of this family, but Nico not being part of the family. Both of them have somewhat got different views on how to race, for different views on racecraft, but they've got such a good fundamental understanding of the basics that that's where they're able to really excel, be able to push themselves slightly further ahead of the rest of these young guns, these uprising stars. So for me, I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on Leo, because I've been watching his progress throughout this game, and every single time he goes on track, he just seems to get quicker and quicker. I'm not sure what they're feeding him. I'm not sure what sort of Weetabix it is, but I definitely need a bowl of it, and I might be able to beat my own lap time. But, they are fantastic, and at the end of the day, there's very, very few drivers at that age who would be able to come and compete in such a serious tournament here at PSGL, or even in the F2, the F3, the F4 we've got here, because it is so competitive, and they do sacrifice so much of their time to be able to make sure they are at the pinnacle of sim racing. That's what we're going for. That's what the dreams are. With Veloce, they've got the resources to back it there. You would think they might be able to achieve it.
Well, talking about Leo, talking about Veloce Academy, I thought this would be a perfect time to go on board with one of the Veloce Academy drivers. We'll watch Leo Lund throughout this lap here around Las Vegas, heading his way down into turn number 7, throwing the car in there, just hopping the curb as you head your way through. Then, of course, into turn number 9, back to the left, misses that apex a little bit there. Not the best corner there from Leo Lund as he exits this first sector. It will be a 43.6 for Leo Lund as he heads his way round into turn number 11, and then of course into turn 12 at the braking zone. We'll see what he can do through here. Very nice so far, close to the wall on the exit as he heads his way down towards turn number 14. Of course, with some DRS, as we can see Nelson Alves head up towards the line, goes to the top with a 31.142. We've got as well Keen Godendorp as well, heading his way up towards the line. He goes up to the top with a 30.5. Then we can see as well one of the Ferraris, that will be Nicholas Longuet, heading his way through in towards turn number 17.
Yeah, something I do just want to point out, riding on board with Leo here, you can just see the steering inputs. They are so smooth. It is fantastic. You do have to be so smooth around a circuit like Vegas, purely down to the amount of grip available and sort of the nature of the corners. They're not banked, they're not cambered. Rotating that car slowly on the front end, not necessarily trying to jolt it and causing the rear to slide out, is one of the quickest ways to drive around this circuit. You can't necessarily drift it into corners like you can in the likes of Suzuka. We're certainly going to see many drivers taking more of a cautious approach to these starting laps in Q2. So if you see drivers, you might think, okay, it's a little bit off the pace, but not necessarily pushing too hard. They will just be getting that banker lap time in and kind of assessing where their true pace is in comparison to the rest of them. And once again, we're seeing the likes of Kian, Lillian, Ishmael, Nicholas, Istvan, all at the top.
Of course, as it is Ferrari sitting 1 and 2 here after the first runs in Q2, and Ishmael Fassi there being only 1,000th back from Nicholas Longuet in 3rd position. Lillian Derbacourt in 4th for the Race Coach team, separating the two Williams here, so of course are 3rd and 5th. And Tiger Hardy yet again in the top 10. Not a surprise at all to see him fighting for that top 6, of course, then with Riccardo Benzoni, Lenny Pepinta, Alan Banashak and Joe Van Bussel rounding out the whole of the top 10. And sitting in the drop zone at the moment are TF10's Alex Santana, the 2 Veloce Academies of Shimon Lakomsky and Leo Lund, Nelson Alves for TES, and Louis Welch for SRC. And well, we talked a bit of praise, didn't we, about Veloce Academy, and I think for some reason our praise has turned into a curse, and currently they're looking not to be going through towards the top 10 Q3.
You know what was always told to me as a small little Josh, believe it or not, I was small at one point in time. It's about the journey, right? And these drivers, they're just embarking on their journey in sim racing. They've been doing it for a couple of years, maybe. You look at the likes of Max Wiesel, for example. Think about how many years he's been competing, whether it's real, whether
Too
it's
many.
sim. Well, that's up to debate, because for me, he's still got many, many good years left in him. Imagine the quality that these drivers could be able to pull off if 2, 3, 4, 5 years time down the road, they have that experience, they have that knowledge, they have that understanding. It could be absolutely fantastic.
You could indeed. I think it's, well, yet again, we've got many young drivers who are looking to try and get themselves through in towards esports in the future. Many of them, I would say, are in this lobby. Indeed, I think the likes of Leo has definitely got a chance. Looking at Lekomsky as well, I think he's only 14 or 15 himself. He's also sprung into action very quickly. We've got Lynn Papinta, Lynn Dabcourt as well, who I think all can try and get themselves in towards esports in the future, which is brilliant to see, isn't it? That there's that many people who can get themselves into esports. All it takes now is what it takes is a bit of luck as well, doesn't it? I think, Josh.
Yeah, and maybe another team to join the F1 grid, because the amount of talent there is ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. We need an 11th team purely just for the esports side. Get 22 drivers on grid, easy work. But no, it's going to be very interesting seeing how a lot of these futures will play out and sort of pan out in a manner of sense. Especially for those which are currently still active. You know, you think about the likes of Freddie Rasmussen, of course, Nicholas Longuet on the grid with us here today. You know, how many more years do they have left? We know Marcel's already called it a day, and he was, go through as one of the young guns back in the good old Racing Point.
Yeah, well, I think age doesn't really matter in esports. I think that's one thing I've certainly noticed over the years. Max Wiesel being one, and then of course you got. I was looking in PSGL General Chat. There was someone as young as 12 racing in PSGL, which is brilliant to see. So many drivers from so many different ages taking part in esports and bringing together a nice community. But we can see, of course, now the drivers on circuit to get ready for their final runs in Q2. Only one driver thinks they're safe, and that is, of course, Lillian Dabecourt retiring on a 1:30.512. We've got the two Ferraris there as well, seen first and second at the moment. They don't think they're safe on their 30.4s, and of course all those below definitely not safe on their lap times. So many improvements needed to be made, and with the top 5 going out, Josh, that makes us think that the bottom 5 have a lot to give in this next part of qualifying.
Yeah, perhaps they're maybe a little bit more cautious, thinking the bottom 5 might have used a used set of tyres. But surely you would consider at that point, there would have been a bit more of a bit large delta difference, between the likes of, let's say, well, mind you, you look at it now, 3 tenths between Benzoni and the likes of Santana. I don't know, that's up for debate. It could have just been a little bit of a scruffy lap from a couple of those drivers, but end of the day, it's better safe than sorry. That's what I'll always think. Nelson Alves already called it very, very fine in the last qualifying. Could Lenny Papinta be doing something... Lenny Papinta? No. Could Lillian Dabecourt be doing something very, very similar here today in Q2? Feel like we're going to have to wait and see, but we will have both of Ferraris crossing the line in almost tandem, being able to start their runs here for Q2.
We'll go on board here with Riccardo Benzoni as he heads his way as well down towards turn number 1. First of those not in the top 5. Completing their final runs here of Q2 as he heads his way down in towards turn number 1. Of course, SRC, very good at the start. They dropped back a little bit throughout the mid part of the season, but recently have also been getting some very nice results. And, Riccardo Benzoni, definitely one to mention in terms of a young driver looking to try and work their way through the ranks and maybe getting themselves to esports in the future. Very quick, and of course, moving over from PlayStation very recently, he's adjusted to PC very, very well indeed as he heads his way down into turn 7, and then of course into turn 8, and then back to the left at turn number 9. And looks good so far in this first sector here for Riccardo Benzoni, Josh, but hopefully can make it through to Q3 here.
Yeah, you hope so for the young gun. Of course, you mentioned he came over from PlayStation, and sometimes we see drivers coming over from console onto PC having, a little bit of a struggle to really get adjusted, but there's been absolutely none of that with Benzer. He's been right on the pace, right on the money, and he's really showing what he's truly capable of over on the PC platform, competing against the very best, and this is just another one of those examples where he's going to be looking to creep in there into the top 10, and maybe even try and get a fight to get himself up in towards the top 5. It'll be very, very close, but I feel like if any of the drivers, which, aren't necessarily part of the big teams, you'd be looking at the likes of a Benzoni, a Tycho Hardy, I'll tell you what, maybe even a Jerry Van Bussel.
Possible. Jerry is also a driver that's been around here for quite a long time in this community, but we'll see what Riccardo Benzoni can do as he heads his way up to P4 there. And on his final run here in Q2, we'll go on board with Keen Godendorp as he heads his way up towards the line, as that will be, I believe, Tiger Hardy goes into P6 there, just behind the back of Lillian Derbycourt. What can Godendorp do as Alex Santana goes into the top 8? Godendorp stays 7th. That might not be that safe for him. But we'll go on board with a few more drivers as they head their way through. Leo Lund is there to qualifying here in Q2, as we can see as well. Jerry Van Bussel into P8. Alan Banashak also out in Q2. As that was Lenny Pepinta popping himself up into that top 10. Nelson Alves out as well. What can Lukomsky do? Can he make his way out to Q2? Into P9? Yes, he can. That knocks the TF10 driver of Alex Santana out. And Louis Welch there, not making it out to Q2, but making it up into 13th to push Leo Lund and Nelson Alves a position more down. And there we have it. Out of Q2, it's Santana, Banashak, Welch, Lund, and Alves being knocked out.
Oh, again, very, very close, but you've got to consider those lap times when it was needed most, being able to pull out the bag. Very, very scary for Kean Gordon-Dorp, but end of the day, he's been able to get through exactly what he needs. You can see that, 40 thousandth of a second between Jerry and Santana. But to run you through the Q2 order, we've got Pookie on that. I always want to say pole for some reason. I know it's not pole, but I want to say pole.
Technically it is, isn't it? Pole in Q2.
Yeah, I suppose so. Longe P2, Fassi P3, Benzoni P4, Derbycourt P5, Hardy P6, Godendorp P7, Pepinta P8, Lukomsky P9, and Van Bussel P10. But we will have to say goodbye to Alex Santana, Alan Bajnak, Louis Welsh, Leo Lund,
and
Nelson Alves. There we go.
Got it in the end.
Memory of an elephant. Beautiful.
Well, it's
definitely not a goldfish
on this game, isn't it?
I'm as quick as an elephant, I'll tell you that.
Right, Q3 is underway, and we have both of the race clutches, both of the Ferraris, both of the Williamses, both of the S7Rs, one of the VAs, and one of the SRCs making it through into Q3. And now, F7R back into a good position, of course, had a 4th and 5th in Mexico, but then the 3 rounds prior to that, only one of their drivers made it through to Q3 on 3 occasions in a row. This time they're both back into the top 10, looking to try and find a very nice finish here tonight. Of course, Joe Van Bussel, from what I heard, isn't always the best when it comes to qualifying well. He's made it into Q3. I think he's done a very good job here tonight indeed, and maybe one of the F7Rs can try and fight for pole. Remember, they have taken pole twice. It was Louis Valentin back in Baku, and it was Tiger Hardy in Spain. So maybe it could be another pole for the F7R team tonight, but it will take a lot for anyone to try and jump ahead of the Ferraris who led Q1, who have led Q2, and now will be looking to try and lead Q3 here.
Certainly look like a team to beat, but how many times have we seen it before where the drivers look so good in Q1 and Q2, but they can't put it together for the all-important lap in Q3? It almost happens every single week here at E-Series. There'll be a driver which really stands out from the crowd, and again, just falls a little bit short of the final hurdle. For Ferrari's sake, I hope it doesn't have today, and I hope we get a fantastic mixed-up grid between the Ferrari and Williams. Chuck a couple of race clutch cars in there, chuck one of the F7Rs, let's see what Lukomsky and Benzoni are able to do as well, because as far as things go, it could be a very big toss-up, especially heading down into such a tight turn 1, almost a complete 180 degrees before turning it back over to the right for turn 3, turn 4, with really the first proper overtaking opportunity being down at turn 5. As I see someone in the YouTube chat not being very nice to you, Nathan. Do you want me to time him out?
Oh, well, it's nothing new, is it, from Matthew Bassett? If he had anything to talk about, he'd be racing on this grid in TF10, but he's not, is he? So, he left because he was bad. Poor Matthew. Maybe he'll come back next game. Maybe he'll be a little bit quicker again. But we've got 9 out of 10 drivers onto circuit now, 10 out of 10 once Spooky leaves the pit lane, and then we can get underway with Q3. And guys, that's on the chat already. Who you think will take pole position here tonight? 10 very quick drivers, all looking to try and fight for pole. It's quite hard to kind of guess who you think will take it, because it is literally more of a guess than anything, isn't it?
No, I've got this one in the bag. Matthew Bassett on pole, easy win. I'll take my leave now. There you go. Sorted.
You could do it in Singapore, nowhere else though.
I don't know. You were quite close to him when we all met in the NEC.
Actually,
you were
no, I was
relatively
quicker
close
than
to him
him.
time-wise. Yeah, you were. It was very, very close though. Very interesting. I'll be interested to see what the rest of the chat would be able to do. We know what Will was able to do. We unfortunately don't know what Carlson would be able to do in a land condition. It'd be very interesting, Carlson. I'll invite you. I'll invite you down next time I'm running a sim rig wherever. It'll be down to you to show up though. Can't cover that one.
Right, so we have the two Ferraris at the back of the train, and then we have Williams at the front being Kian, who was invalidated his
always is.
outlap.
It's always Kian. I'm telling you, he's just got an infatuation with being at the front of the grid. I'm not sure whether it's just because he doesn't like having cars in front of him distracting him, but he's always at the front. Every single time without fail. I guarantee it. I mean, it works for him, doesn't it? You just said, like, he puts together fantastic qualifying laps, and when he's in that race pace, as long as he finds himself amongst the quick guys, he can very easily keep pace with them and really make a challenge for the race win. But he is just about to start his lap, heading all the way down here into turn 1, because it is a little bit longer than you would necessarily expect.
Of course, we'll see here what Kian Goldendup can do on his first run here in Q3, and of course, Kian's a driver that I've noticed, I think he actually does better in the race than he does in quali, from what I've seen. So that,
yes.
If that says something, that just shows how quick he is in that race pace aspect. And, even if he qualifies 10th, I still can't see him getting any lower than P5. He's that good when it comes to the race and the strategy. And as he heads his way through towards turn 7 as well, we can see many more starting their laps. The two race coaches also on track. We'll go on board here with Lenny Pepinter heading his way down in towards turn 7 and 8, and then of course back into turn number 9. We'll see what he can do at the end of this first sector, just sliding his way through in towards that left-hander, back on the power as he heads his way to the end of sector 1 of 43.4 for Lenny Pepinter. Very decent opening sector here for the race coach driver as he heads his way down into turn number 12 at the heavy braking zone to the left. Bit of a drift, and he takes that nicely. Bit of a drift. I don't think that was planned, but it worked.
If it works, it works. There's no point trying to change it. Fantastic stuff. Very entertaining, to say the very least. But I will just pick up something I noticed. Lillian Derbycourt turned the battery off heading through 7, 8 and 9 to try and save a little bit of that harvesting power to make sure they've got enough to power all the way up to the line, which can be a little bit of a problem depending on how the drivers necessarily map their throttle and their throttle inputs around the circuit, with the battery demand being so high, as you would expect with a track with half of it being a straight line. But at the end of the day, he's looking to get himself a good lap time on board as Kitten Gordon puts himself a very good lap time on board with a 1:30.3.
As Debecup goes into second with a 0.7. We've got Lekomsky coming through as well. We'll see what he can do in the Velocity Academy McLaren car as he heads his way through into turn number 17. Heads up towards the line. Can he take provisional pole? No, he can't. He goes into second with a 0.4. Then we've got one of the Williamses coming through. No, first we've got the two F7Rs. Tiger Hardy to the top with a 0.293. Ooh. What can Van Bussel do? He goes up into P5 with a 0.959. Benzoni has invalidated his lap. What about the two Ferraris? What can they do as Ismail Fassi goes second? Nicholas Longate goes up to P4. Pookie goes up to P3. So that means it's F7R on provisional pole.
Hello, Tycho Hardy. We mentioned before, managers, engineers might be watching this thinking, okay, who could we sign for the next big talent? It could very well be Tycho Hardy.
Definitely.
He's out here. He's so consistent, especially in E-Series, putting in fantastic qualifying after fantastic race, back to back to back to back, as many times as you want. He has been electric so far, and he's certainly not showing any signs of slowing down, because that is a ridiculous lap time. And overall, you can't say anything else other than that. It's been fantastic.
Of course, and the first driver to make it into the 1:30.2s, with Ismail Fassi being very close, but not quite close enough. And then, of course, Istvan Pookie in third on a 1:30.348. And then, of course, we've got another Williams and then another Ferrari sitting fourth and fifth. And Race Clutch as well, 7th and 10th, not where they'd like to be ideally, but of course they still have many more laps to complete. With Lillian being that far off, that makes me think that possibly it was a used tyre rather than a new tyre. And then Pepinter, of course, made a mistake on his lap after a decent first sector, so he also would have been compromised heavily from that. And Jerry Van Bussel there on a 0.9. That makes me also think he was on a used set of tyre or just made a very big mistake on his lap. And if Jerry can get himself in and around that top 5, Williams have got to worry. There's only 12 points separating Williams and F7R, so they've got to attack Ferrari and kind of defending the championship from F7R.
Yeah, it could be very, very interesting. A very special dynamic we don't often get to see here too often, is it? Just having a little look here. And I do believe Jerry had a error into sector one. Lost about 4 tenths there, which would theoretically put him right up there with the likes of Simeon, battling for that P5, P6 sort of route, depending on how much more he would have been able to gain over that lap time. But Tycho being ahead of the field in that middle sector, maybe it was deploying a little bit more battery, maybe not necessarily harvesting through the likes of 6, 7, 8, 9, like we saw Lillian do slightly earlier. Just able to get that little bit of an edge in that sector and really be able to drive it home. The rest of the sectors are very, very close between, realistically, the top 5 drivers.
Well,
It's absolutely fantastic to see in the data.
Yeah, we can see the top 6 there separated by just over 1/10 of a second. Very close between the top 6, and that is between 4 different teams on the grid. And of course, Lillian and Jerry also having lap times, and then Ricardo and Lenny not setting a time on their runs. So we'll see what they can do as well. I think Benzoni and Papinta can easily try and fight for a top 5 here tonight. So qualifying will be very interesting on the final runs. If they can all make a lap work that they can normally do, because Benzoni was quick in Q2, Papinta was quick back in Q1. If they can set laps at that level again, they will easily fight for pole, which means we could have a very interesting battle tonight for the top 10. I think this is one of the closest battles, Josh, we've had this season when it comes to battling for pole position.
Yeah, and looking at the data here as well, just having a quick little check through to what Benzoni's and Papinta's lap times would be. Papinta clearly backed off from a lap time, wasn't necessarily happy with it, so lost a little bit more time, but Benzoni was only 2 tenths back off of Tycho's time, which would have put him in that ballpark, you know, with the likes of Longue, looking for that P5, P6, P7 area. Again, it seems to be about a hot spot, but with all the drivers going back out on track here, with the track ever increasing in speed, in grip, this will be the make or break moment for these drivers. And would you look at who's at the back of the grid? Istvan Pukki. We know he's done performances all the way from the back before. When it comes to this final run, he loves having cars in front of him, whether it's just a motivation thing, maybe he wants to try and catch him, whatever it is. It's worked so well for him in the past. Is he going to be able to pull out another masterclass here today?
We'll see what Pukki can do. I remember him fighting for, I think it was with Max Wiesel last season for pole in Brazil, and those two at the line was 0.000 in Q3 for pole. So maybe we'll see that happen again, but I'm not sure it will be with, well, it won't be with Max Wiesel, it'll be with Tiger Hardy if Pukki can try and fight that position for pole tonight as he heads his way past one of the Williamses to continue on with his outlap. As we can see, who's going to be first to start a lap? It will be Riccardo Benzoni as he heads his way down towards turn number 14 and leaving it very long, going very slow, warming up the tyres there, bit of brake drag in to get his tyres nice and warmed up and ready to rear for this final run. And Josh, who's your bet for pole? What are you saying?
Okay, you've really chucked me at the deep end, but I'm going to say Ishmael. I'm going to go Fassi.
I'll go with Papinta after what he did last night in Brazil. I know it's a different track and it's a different championship, but I'm going to go with Papinta here. Hasn't got a lap time on the board, and we've seen many times before people go from no lap time to the best lap time.
I can't wait to see how horribly wrong we both are when, Jerry Van Bussel just chucks it on pole. But we're going to have to wait for approximately 1 minute and 30 seconds until then, because Riccardo Benzoni has just started his lap for the SRC Aston Martin. Oh, it's a brilliant looking car. It's a brilliant setup, I'm sure Benzoni's using. Part of our sponsors, believe it or not.
Of course, yes. And
yeah.
it would be nice if they had a yellow car, wouldn't it? It'd fit quite
It would
well.
be. It would be. The old Renault car.
Ooh, that'd be nice. Yeah, yellow and blue. There's not much blue in SRC, but the yellow works enough, doesn't it, to compensate?
I was thinking the RS17, the yellow and black one.
Oh, the yellow and black. Yes.
Yes, yes. Not Fernando old, but like Hulkenberg old. Okay, you got to think that was almost 10 years. Okay, that was almost 10 years ago. Oh dear.
Well, it's quite bad to think, isn't it? Time flies by when you're having fun, I suppose. But we can see now what these drivers can do at the end of the Q3 session. All 10 of them now on circuit. What can Benzoni do here? Looking at the moment well, he's got no lap time. Looking to try and get something on the board here for his final run in Q3. The checker flag has waved, which means no more lap times can be set, of course, by any more drivers. What can Benzoni do? Of course, message in the chat. Who's getting pole? Let us know, guys, who you think will take pole position. A 108.833 for Riccardo Benzoni in that second and first set to split into turn 14. Looking nice so far. Hops the curb on the exit of turn 14 into 15. Now heading down to turn 17. What can Riccardo Benzoni do as he heads his way through up towards the line? Will it be pole position for SRC? Won't be, but it will be P7 at the time being. Then we've got to see who's next through. King Godard up to the top with a .210. Then we've got a few more cars coming through. We've got Nicholas Longay into P2 there. Pookie to the top with a 154. What about Ishmael Fassi as he heads his way down into turn number 14? Jerry Van Bussel only managing P8. Tiger Hardy back into the pit lane. Papinta goes into P6. What about Ishmael Fassi as he heads his way through up towards the line? Lukovski goes into P7. It will be Derbicourt into third. It'll be Fassi and stays in P6 there. So Ferrari on the upper hand there after qualifying.
Oh, it's not the qualifying session Williams were really hoping for there, is it? They wanted to be able to get themselves slightly further ahead of Ferrari, just give them a little bit of an edge to start the race with. But unfortunately for them, they're going to have to do a lot of hard work in this race to be able to grind out not only back past Ishvan Pookie, but also around the likes of Nicholas Longay, Tycho Hardy, and Lilian Dubicult for Ishmael Fassi. But we've seen so many times before the racecraft of Ishmael Fassi. You would surely expect him to go for some very bold, some very daring moves. But it should be a very entertaining race, considering the drivers have got so much to gain, not only from the top two teams, but from the majority of teams throughout the rest of the session. But to give you your final 10 for qualifying, we do have Istvan Pookie grabbing that pole position by 56 thousandths of a second to Kitten Gordondorp, who's in P2, with Lillian Derbicourt into P3, with Nicholas Longay P4, Tycho Hardy P5, Ishmael Fassi in P6, Lily Papinta into P7, Simeon Lupinski into P8, I will get that name right one day, Riccardo Benzoni into P9, and Jerry Van Bussel rounding out the top 10 there. Very interesting. I'm not too sure why the game's decided that a lot of cars didn't have tyres at all, but it's just a feature. It's just a feature.
Well, it's the F1 game. It gives us everything, doesn't it? And it's not always the stuff that we want. But, of course, we have our Lubbery start, as usual, after the qualifying session, guys. So we'll have a quick word from our sponsors over at GT Omega and SRC, and we'll be back with you very, very shortly. And welcome back, everyone, after qualifying, of course. A brilliant Q3 here in Las Vegas, and it will be Istvan Pookie on pole for the Ferrari team, ahead of, I believe it was Keen Godendorp for Williams. And then, of course, Lilian Derbicourt in third for race, which hasn't raced here much this season. So to see him in third, he's definitely, I think, I wouldn't say much of a surprise, but brilliant to see.
Yes, it really, really is. You know, he had so many stellar performances there. Just very much what could have been for Tycho Hardy. Dived into the pits off that last lap. He wasn't happy with it. Showed such promise out that first lap. And to think, out of that one lap, we saw the rest of the drivers make a massive pace increase, and he still remained P5 ahead of one of the Williams cars. It is fantastic. Ishmael, not necessarily getting the rub of the green around Vegas in the qualifying, but this race could bring open any sort of possibilities. We've not even touched on what could happen if it starts raining, because we know it's not impossible around here. But good old Bob, he told me something during that ad break. It was just after the brilliant GT Omega ad, where it's showing all your little bits of hardware you can sit in to stay comfortable, such as myself and Nathan. Again, another shameless plug, PSGL at discount. But Bob was telling me, Riccardo Benzoni, using the SRC setup around here today, and it certainly worked out for him. P9, just not a bad start.
Indeed, I think he did a very good job with that SRC setup, which I think is brilliant as well. I've used so many times, and they are very, very good. For beginners, for esports drivers, no matter your skill level, you can always make an SRC setup work. And of course, those different variations. You've got the safe setup and the esports
Yes.
setup. So if you're not quite in tune to how esports drivers drive, you can take the safe setup, be a bit more on the safer side, and then work your way up to using that faster esports setup. And of course, you've got the inter setups, the wet setups. Honestly, it's setup galore, and that is for every single
Yes.
track. Every single 8 to 24 tracks, you get 4 steps for each. It is brilliant, and it's definitely worth your money, of course. And I believe you're able to
Well,
pre-order the F124 setups,
yes.
aren't you, Josh?
Yes, you are. I've got a large beta team over there. Whenever I poke my head in as part of a broadcast, they're always working tremendously hard for it. But if you are somewhat dubious about the setups, and you might think, well, how much quicker are they really? If you want a great example, they do have a free setup for the safe preset, let's say, around China. So if you are interested in sort of seeing how it would feel, how it would handle, whether you would necessarily like it, I mean, it's great. End of the day, it is a free setup. Go and join the Discord, get yourself involved, and also, I probably shouldn't say this, but there is going to be a little bit of a giveaway at the end of the F3 stream next week for 3 of the SRC setups. So if you are interested, feel free, pop in. It'll be myself and Alex there. Alex is currently running a broadcast over on the SRC Twitch channel as well for a social race they do every Friday. So if you want, you can always go and compete in there once E-Series is finished. And I do mean once E-Series is finished, right?
Of course.
None of you lot run away. But Avatar is asking to have a look at the standings. Do we give it? Go on, Ben. Why not? Because it is very, very close here, isn't it, Nathan?
It is indeed. Obviously, Ferrari lead the way on 343 points with Williams very close behind. Only 33 points separates those two teams, and then F7R right behind on 298. Only 12 points back from Williams, of course. And then we look a little bit further down, very close as well between the likes of Race Clutch, Veloci Academy, SRC, there between 4th and 7th. And of course, TF10 in a bit of nowhere. They're too far back from SRC. They're a little bit too far, well, more than too far ahead from TES, who are on 99 points. And then, of course, just 2 points behind them is MVR on 97. Then ETH at the bottom in 11th position on 11 points, of course, making their first round back only last week in Mexico. So there we are. Very close standings, of course. The top 3 all fighting for the championship. Then 4th, 6th and 7th are fighting for 4th, of course, because we haven't got RHG here with us anymore. And then we have TF10, who are looking to score points. I think now they're in a bit of a silly position because they know they can't fight for 7th, but they know they're not going to defend from 8th. So what do?
They just go and enjoy the experience. Give it to the drivers who they feel like needs that little bit more track experience with, these phenomenal names such as Riccardo Benzoni, Louis Welsh, Kian Gordondorp, Tycho Hardy. Just give them an opportunity to go and race against them. Get a little feel for what the racecraft is like so they can better prepare themselves for in the future when they do need to come and they do need to potentially fill in or take over one of the lead seats at TF10. Really give them an opportunity to start on the front foot and be able to progress from there instead of chucking them in at the deep end, expecting them to be Michael Phelps, because at the end of the day, not everyone can swim. Fun fact, I can't.
I can, but there's not many things you can't do. No, sorry, Josh, there's not many things you can do, are there?
Well, I can speak.
That works, I
yeah.
suppose. But
I can also hide my accent pretty well, so...
Yeah, I can't hide my accent very well, at all.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone can tell I'm from Birmingham by just hearing me speak.
Yeah,
I can
the best part
worse,
is...
but I don't.
Just so everyone knows, we live 10 minutes away from each other. Just so everyone knows, my accent completely different to his.
Yeah,
it's just the nature of Great Britain.
You spent the last 3 years an hour away from me.
No. I've spent 8 months away from you. I only moved up to Stoke September.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to find an excuse, but I can't find one. Carlson,
you just weren't raised by
I
old
saw
people.
that. Nathan can't either, to be fair, he just sinks.
Wow, I wouldn't be having that one.
Well.
I would not be having that. But enough about sinking or swimming, because it's not our opportunity to sink or swim.
No.
We've already got life jackets on. We're going to be getting into this race in a matter of seconds to really decide to try and see which drivers are going to be able to... I don't want to use the word sink in case it starts raining, because that's just very poor puns. But let's see which ones are going to be able to roll the roulette wheel, and see which ones are going to be able to come out on black, and which ones are going to be able to come out on red.
Well, Williams are here now, I think, looking to try and get back ahead of Ferrari, because, of course, They led the championship for quite a while, I think since around round 5. And of course, unfortunately for Williams today, they've got a driver in P4 and a driver in P6. No, sorry, a driver in P2 and a driver in P6. So Ishmael has got a bit of work to do.
Yes. And we know, we saw it in the F1 sim race, we saw it here before in E-Series, we saw it in PCF1. There's a reason why he's called the artist. He paints absolute pieces of masterwork. George Morgan gave him that name for some of his brilliant overtakes. He's able to somewhat picture it all together before the opportunity even arises. Very much like a good old Mystic Mac, good old Conor McGregor. He can see exactly what's going to happen. He picks the place where he puts his car, and he quite often works out to perfection. It'll be very interesting to see how well he's going to be able to do that here today around Vegas.
Of course, and hopefully, Josh, we don't have too long before we can get underway, because we always have this horrible stage where we just sit here and have to talk and talk until the race decides to just go underway.
How many hamsters do you reckon it would take to fuel a Mackey's order for Will Gibson?
Countless, in the millions.
That's a lot of chicken nuggets you're making out of hamsters. Oh, well, here we are. 5 red lights. We've got that curved starting grid. But it is a great restart there from every single driver looking to try and get themselves ahead into Turn 1 from their counterpart. But of course, Turn 1 isn't really going to be the overtaking opportunity they're going to be looking for. They're going to be looking to try and somewhat tuck back into the slipstream, heading down into Turn 5, because that is where you're going to be able to make the moves. But a lot of these drivers going 2, 3 wide through Turns 2, Turns 3. All of them very much looking to try and continue their little bit of a run of pace. We are seeing Kian slowly fall further back down the order with Istvan and Pookie. Once again, just taking the lead of rate, taking the initiative with Lillian Dubicult as well, jumping up into P2. Not exactly the start you would expect from the hard compound tyre, but Istvan doing something really well to get those tyres up and working with Tiger Hardy up into P4, Nick Slonge up into P5, Lady Papinta up into P6, and Ishmael Fassi knowing he has to make moves on that soft compound tyre, trying to battle it out, trying to retain onto P6 where he originally started. But we do have every single driver making it very safely through Sector 1. But to be quite honest with you, that's more than I was thinking at the moment.
Of course, and we've got many on the softs, many on the hards, and one driver on the set of the mediums as Ishmael Fassi does get back ahead of Lenny Papinta and into P6 for the Williams team. Lenny does try and fight back, though, as they head their way down towards turn number 14, as we can see a change for the lead here between Istvan Pookie, Lillian Debecourt and Kieran Godin up here. Lillian does take the lead of the race as they head their way down to turn number 14, but we've got obviously Istvan on the inside, Keen on the outside. We're going 3 wide into turn 14. Who stays in the lead? It will be the race coach ahead of the Williams, ahead of the Ferrari, just for now, as they head their way back down towards turn number 1. Now Tiger Hardy on the soft, trying to get himself into P3 ahead of Istvan Pookie.
Yeah, he's got the run, hasn't he? You can see he's got the slipstream. He's deploying a little bit of battery. He knows he can make this overtaking opportunity, but he's just boxed in there by Kian, going to that defensive inside line. You see Istvan there having a little bit of a wobble on the steering wheel, losing him out of that position. He's falling down into P4. So far for Williams, you've got to think this might have been one of their best ideal starts here. Getting Ishmael ahead of Nicholas Longe, and now ahead of Istvan Pookie. Fantastic stuff from the Williams cars, but you do have to consider those Ferraris on the hards. They're going to be looking for this long-haul game, the long-term gain of being on that hard compound tyre, carrying them slightly deeper into the race, opening up potential for more strategies, while this Williams team are very much boxed in here with this soft compound, chucking it over to a hard at the last stage of this race, and it can be very, very punishing towards the end of a race on that hard compound tyre. But we're going to have to wait and see until then, because we do have many other drivers looking to make moves all throughout this field. I'm expecting this to be a very close race, a lot of DRS slipstreaming, and of course that DRS train, which is undoubtedly going to arise here somewhere or somehow. I'm not sure where, but one thing is for certain, Kian Gornadop's going to get a beautiful run heading all the way down into turn 12.
Of course, we'll see what happens between Lillian and Keen, whether they swap for the lead or don't, as they head down now in towards turn number 14. See Keen there gaining in, but decides to sit back just for now. Wants that DRS, of course, as we could see for a second there. Istvan Pookie very close to the rear of Ishmael Fassi as they went down into turn number 14. As well, further back, a very good start from Ferraris Fires up into P12 from, I believe, P17. Looking to close in for that top 10 as well. Good start from the two Veloce Academies, even though they started on a harder cup at a time. They've made up many positions and now in 9th and 10th position, as we can see further back as well. That'll be Daniele Parodi. I think it won't be. It'll be Nelson Alves making a move ahead of Alan Banashak for P16 in the TES car. And we can see as well Lenny Papinta looking to try and close in here on the rear of Nicolas Longe. But the two Ferraris can work together to defend here from the race coach driver.
Absolutely. Looking at the positions gained out of these first 3 laps before they have a real good bite with the DRS heading down into turn 14 once again. You're looking at Istvan Pukki losing out 4 positions. Leoland gaining 4 positions. Flores as well, also gaining himself 4 positions. Daniel Brody gaining himself 6 positions from the back of the grid. Gonna have to keep an eye on what else he's going to be able to cook up. And then Alan, unfortunately, losing 5 positions down in P17. Very interesting tactic to go on that hard compound tyre. Do you feel like they should really be trying to disrupt the flow of Ismail Fassi with Istvan? Do you reckon they should be sending Istvan on the attack here, nice and early on?
I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there's that many things you can do, of course, with the hard and the soft. You've got to kind of, I think, for many drivers, play it safe. If you're on the hards, play it safer. If you're on the soft, just push, and see what you can do, of course. And I think that is what those at the front are trying to do there. As Keane going up, takes the lead back away from Lilian Davenport, and Toga Hardy into second ahead of Lilian Davenport. But Lilian does defend it to turn 14, but can't quite get that defence to work, and now drops into P3 under pressure now from Ismail Fassi. As we can see further back, of course, there Alex Santana fighting with Nelson Alves for P15, and Flores Fires fighting with Louis Welch for P12.
Yeah, we could very well see Daniel Brody making his way through on Flores Wages as well, just because of that brilliant little bit of toe you can get heading through turn 17. We do have both of the MBR drivers towards the back of the field fighting with one another, already using up almost all of their battery. I did see a red flashing light on one of the Haas cars. Very interesting tactics. Of course, ERS is going to be a huge thing around this circuit, whether it's going to be saving, harvesting, or trying to go on the offensive through a couple of these, you know, awkward corners where you wouldn't necessarily expect a car to try and make an overtake. It is all very viable around here. Despite the walls being very close, you got to consider the track can be wide enough to stick 2 or 3 cars wide at certain moments. It might not be optimal, but if you are looking to try and somewhat hold up a field, I'm sure a couple of the cars, especially in the lead of this pack, wouldn't necessarily mind going too wide to back up the field just a little bit.
Well, we've nearly seen the 3 wide down to turn 14 on multiple occasions so far in this race, and we've only had 4 laps. That shows how aggressive the drivers can be, and also how OP that DRS is down towards that braking zone. It's very easy to get a bit too much overspeed, and the issue you have sometimes is that even though you're pushing along and you have to back off because of the car ahead being very close, you've got cars behind also looking to push through, so then you're forced into making an overtake, which is, you know, an issue that you can sometimes get around here because most drivers like to sit behind and have that DRS, as we can see. Toga Hardy take the lead of the race ahead of Keane, then Lilian Debecourt heads his way back up into P2, and we'll see this happening all race long here between the top 3, Tycho, Lilian and Keane. Of course, fighting for the lead here in tonight's Grand Prix. And of course, Ismail Fassi, the partner of Keane, going up tonight, looking to see what he can do, as we got Pukki on the attack here of Fassi into turn 1. We got Lilian as well under pressure from Golden Up as they head their way through into the first corner. It's Keane ahead of Lilian, ahead of Ishmael, ahead of, oh nope, they're swapping round there. Pukki to the outside, but then Ismail's forced to try and make him move ahead of his teammate as they head down to turn 5. You can see they're all trying to position themselves well. It's very hard when they're all looking to try and push an attack on each other. You don't really know where to go.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, there's only one optimal line for all these drivers to take. Both of them want it. One of them's going to have to make a sacrifice, and it does look like they'll be falling back into somewhat of an order, having the F7R driver still leading the way with Lilian P2, then both of Williams, then both of Ferraris. It's going to be very interesting to somewhat see some sort of team games, but something I do just want to point out, because the chat seem awfully confused, and I've been trying to wrap my head around it for a little while. Other than Jerry anticipating a safety car, I can't necessarily see a reason for those medium tyres.
Yeah, I don't really know why mediums don't work, but I just don't see them happen very often. Normally you're looking at a soft, medium, hard medium, not a medium soft or a medium hard. So, you know, obviously Jerry Van Bussel, he's definitely out of sync to everyone at the moment, depending what he decides to do at the end of the race. Most of the others will be going on to mediums. He will be looking to go onto a set of the hards or softs, as we can see. Debecourt take the lead once again ahead of Keane, ahead of Tycho. As they head 3 wide in towards turn 14. We've got Pukki and Fassi also joining the party as they head their way down into the braking zone. It will be Golden Up who leads. Debecourt in second, Hardy in third, and then Ismail Fassi looking to also make his way up into the top 3 with Istvan Pukki yet again on the attack to get ahead of the Williams as they head into turn 17. Looking for it but can't quite find it as they head to turn 1. I've got to say, Josh, that camera angle into turn 17 is absolutely brilliant, isn't it? You can see the speed the car's carrying through.
Stunning. It is absolutely stunning. Something else which might be stunning is Ismail Fassi being an opportunistic overtake through turn 3 there. I made a joke slightly earlier before we was on stream about seeing an overtake there, and Ishmael's been able to pull an absolutely spectacular one off, but because of that DRS, you can just see Tycho Hardy's being given another lease on life to get that position back, and he'll be creeping his way back up into P3. Fantastic move there from Ishmael Fassi. It's just unfortunately he wasn't able to hold on to it for too much longer, but he's still trying to go side by side all the way from his very technical, twisty turn 7, 8, and 9. But he's realised now he's had to somewhat sit back, otherwise he'll be jeopardising his run all the way down from here, all the way down to turn 12. It's a very, very long run. And the last thing you would want is a very aggressive Ferrari driver with battery fighting for a championship right behind you after you get a terrible run out of corner. Ishmael might just have to settle it down here for just a little bit before re-going on the offensive back down to turn 14. The action never stops around Las Vegas.
It never does, it never will. As we could see, the two Veloce Academies make a swap through into turn 12. As yet again, about to turn 1, we go once more. This time Nicholas Longa is getting involved as well to see what can happen as they head down to these next breakers. And it will be Lillian who leads once more. Tycho's in second for McKeon. Then we have this one, Pookie looking to try and get fourth. Can he take fourth away from Ishmael Fassi? He's going to be close on the exit at turn 16. I think he's got it done. He has, just for now. And Ishmael Fassi drops down behind both Ferraris and also possibly Lenny Pepinter as they head down to turn 1.
Absolutely, you can see that Ferrari's going too wide to block off the road and trade positions. Nicholas Longa moved himself up into P4 there. Ishmael Fassi had a slight little bump there, which cost him to lose a little bit of that extra momentum coming out of turn 16. And when you've got such a long run all the way over to turn 1, full throttle, it'll cost you absolute... It might as well. It feels like it costs you minutes, to be quite honest with you. But he's fallen back down to P7. He knows exactly what he needs to do. As we do see Leo Lund go for a very late move. And, yeah, Leo Lund seemingly driving into the side of Ishmael Fassi. And Fassi is out of this race.
Oh, no. And Williams, the championship hope is becoming to be over here, isn't it? It's getting worse and worse. We've got a safety car on lap 7. It was Leo Lund, we believe, hit the side of Ishmael Fassi and sent him into the barriers at turn 5. And you know, if you hit a wall at turn 5, you are out of the race. So Ferrari now looking to be in an even better position coming through to the end of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Keen Gundorp, a lot of work to do now, a lot of pressure on him to try and save Williams in this championship. Remember, if Ferrari can outscore Williams by 30 points, that means they will take the championship home tonight, but that still is going to be quite a task indeed. As it will be Debacore who leads on lap 7 ahead of Hardy in second and Godendorp in third. But one team here, Josh, which this helps is F7R, yet again.
Certainly is. Very opportunistic. They found another way to be able to sneak themselves a couple of extra points onto the back of that Williams team. And Tiger Hardy, being in P2, looking to try and capitalise on it. Yes, it'll slowly help beating the other Williams car on track. That's clear to see. But at the same time, you consider Jerry on that medium compounded tyre potentially could have, found himself a certain way here to be able to go onto the hards. They might feel not necessarily the greatest for 17 laps, to be quite honest, but there's potential to it. There is potential. As Will's also said in chat, the mediums will be very poor towards the end of a race, which they will. So, going over to that hard set of tyres, potentially he might have just found himself a way back into this race, and it could be a very, very promising way to really be able to try and go and push himself a little bit further. That's perfectly fine, Nathan. You can quickly run away and grab yourself a water bottle. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, so while Nathan's gone chat, let's have a little bit of a game while the safety car's out, right? This race very much neutralised. Majority of them going over to that medium compound tyre. You got Nelson and Jerry both over to the hards. They're going to be in a somewhat of a detrimental scenario, right, for the restart. Not being necessarily on the best tyre, it won't have the best grip, it won't be an optimal level. So, how are we thinking they're going to be able to hold on to that position? I want to hear your thoughts, chat. So this requires you to type back to me. Just wait. I do love a good old YouTube delay, but I can confirm as well. It was Leo going into the side of him, and he doesn't help himself, does he? Sometimes. I know he's had a little bit of scrutiny here and there, to say the very least. But end of the day, it's not the end of the world. It's a sim racing accident. They'll often happen. We've got Will saying Jerry might get killed at the start, but the hards might be good. I'm expecting the hards to be very, very strong at the latter end of this race, but right from the start, he's going to be very much ducking for cover with the likes of Daniele Parodi, Alan Bushnack, Louis Welsh, Alex Santana, all of which you would think on a softer compounded tyre would be able to get the legs on him to really be able to push it slightly further up throughout the field. But no, it's certainly going to be interesting. Nelson Alves having a little bit of that luxury towards the back of the field, having a little bit of, well, he can sort of sit back a little bit, can't he? He can kind of eyeball what could happen in front of him, stay out of any sort of trouble. Could potentially be a very good way to go about it. Yeah, wing damage. Again, it's another thing that we can bring up. Welcome back, Nathan. Hopefully you've been able to acquire your water bottle. But Simeon going back into the pits, Nelson as well, and Wilson as well. Okay, so Nelson second-guessed himself, went onto a set of mediums again, trying to match what the rest of the field did. But Simeon and Wilson go into the hards.
Well, that makes me think that they think a hard strategy is better here, rather than a medium. And that could definitely work, but it might not. We'll see what happens, of course. Taking a bit of a gamble is Lukomsky and Wilson Hall. And we'll see if that can work for them in the long run, of course, with Joe Van Bussel in the middle of the pack with a set of the hards. That could also work out quite well for him if he can, you know, get them to work all the way to the end of this race once the mediums start, because let's be honest, the mediums will be dead by the end of this race, and carnage will unfold when you have dead tyres along a low-grip circuit. It doesn't end well, and it won't. I certainly don't think it will. But the battle for the lead, if you looked at the top 6, you got both of the race coaches, and you got an F7R, a Williams, a Veloce Academy of Leo London, also a Ferrari of Nicholas Longay, and then further back as well you got Pookie in P7, of course, the second Ferrari, then you got the first of the SRCs, the second of the S7Rs, and then the first of the TF10s. And so far, Daniele Parodi, what a brilliant job he's done. Moved up to P11, of course, or P12 on the softs, and then was able to benefit of a few having an issue with, I presume, double stacking in the pits.
Yes. And, you know, we mentioned it, Jerry being on the hard compound tyre, he's not necessarily going to get the best restart. He'll have to take his time a little bit to get back into the zone. We've already brought up, he won't necessarily be the quickest right out the gates, but towards the end of the race, he should be looking to really try and capitalise on those medium tyres around him. But it will just very much be a case and a scenario of being able to duck for cover, making sure he doesn't pick up any wing damage. And certainly, it can be a huge factor here, going all the way down into turn 1, especially with the way Lillian is somewhat backing up the pack here.
Of course, and we'll see what Lillian decides to do here in this restart. Does he go early? Does he go late? As they all weave their way down towards turn number 1. Debacle will lead ahead of Tiger Hardy, and Kean Godin up for Williams in 3rd position as they get ready to head off for the restart. Once more, I'll go on board here with Tiger Hardy. We'll see what he chooses to do. Lillian's gone. He's got a very good restart there from Lillian Debacle to keep and to catch Tiger Hardy. A little bit napping down towards turn 1. Further back, we can see Leo Lund on the attack of Nicholas Longay. We can see Pookie on the attack of Papinta, and Lund as well into turn 1 there. 3 wide through turn 1 and 2. Into turn 3 and 4 they go. It will be Leo Lund, who's ahead of Pookie, ahead of Papinta as they head down towards turn 5. But still, Debacle leads with a very good advantage to Tiger Hardy, with being just over 7/10 of a second.
Yep, Dylan Warren's trying to do maths in the YouTube chat. I'm not necessarily sure that's a good idea, Dylan. You might hurt yourself. But no, we should probably mention, out of all seriousness, Ferrari do have a very good chance to wrap up the title here tonight. It would require an absolute masterclass from here to somewhat keep them behind
round.
Oh no. Safety car? No? Okay,
No.
Right. Still underway. Still racing. Brilliant. Right. Because I was about to say, if we had another safety car, that would open a whole different ball game for a couple of these drivers to really try and experiment with different strategies, see what would be beneficial. But as things stand, you would consider Williams to be able to still hold themselves into the fight, but they're not really going to be able to take that extra step closer to Ferrari as he was expecting. Now they are down to only the one car. And when you've got a driver like Nicholas Longay behind you, you know he's going to be applying the pressure. He's cold as ice in these scenarios. There's nothing you can do which will scare him. You can jolt, you can dive under braking, doesn't matter. He's going to be running his race, waiting for you to make an error, knowing that he is going to be able to last longer, be more consistent than any other driver on this grid. It's one of his key quality attributes, and he knows exactly how to exploit it.
Of course, and yet again, as we know, a lot of pressure here on the back of Kean going up, looking to try and get himself a result to be within 30 points of Ferrari. It's 2 versus 1 here at the moment as Louis Welch has dropped down to the rear of the field. What's happened to Louis Welch? We'll try and catch him. Turn 1, a bit of a spin in the SRC Aston Martin. Of course, Banashak had a spin earlier on, and earlier on we did lose Ismail Fassi to bring out that safety car. So we've had lots of carnage so far on the first 11 laps of this race, and probably many more, as we can see. Jerry Van Bussel on the attack for a second of Riccardo Benzoni, but because of that, that's put him onto the defence of Daniele Parodi. Round the outside at turn 7 goes the TF10 to the inside at turn 8, then back to the outside at turn number 9. Can he get the move done ahead of Jerry Van Bussel? If he can, it's going to be a brilliant move. They go side by side on the exit of the corner, down towards turn 11 and 12. What a move this could be here from Daniele Parodi.
No way is he going to be able to stick this one around the outside heading into 12. He decides, he thinks better of it. He's trying to get a little bit of a cutback there, but there just wasn't enough space on the inside to be able to get that to work. But he will be able to pick up the benefit of DRS and a very, very close knit slipstream. And also, I do believe that might be Jerry's red light flashing on the back of that AlphaTauri car. It certainly is, showing he's low on battery, engine going into energy recovery moment. And of course, he'll lose a little bit of top-end speed for that. And around a track like this, it can be ever so critical. But he's still able to hold on to the position.
Yeah, of course. And I think that, to be fair, it's a bit silly for Parodi and Van Bussel to fight there because they've lost DRS now, so it makes it 2 trains. So,
yes.
And with already Van Bussel being a little bit slower on the hards, it makes it even more difficult of a strategy as far as Fires gets himself up into P10 for TES, looking to get them a second top 10 in a row in E-Series. Haven't got a top 10 before that, so that shows that they're in a bit of better form at this current point in the championship as well. Leo Lund on the rear of Nicholas Longay as they head down to turn 5. And then also for as far as ahead of Jerry Van Bussel to put himself into P9 here. Looking very good for TES with Forest Fires. Unfortunately, not too well for TES with Nelson Alves, who's down in P15 at this current time. And Flores now needs to try and gain a bit more time on the rear of the top 8 to try and get himself within a second to give himself some DRS. And if he can't get DRS this time around, hopefully, if Van Bussel can re-overtake Flores down to turn 14, they re-overtake again, they should gain him towards that top 10 as top 8 train. As we can see, Flores using a bit of battery though, and he's got only about 20% left.
Yeah, it is very, very distracted, and the drivers will be fully aware of how much battery they're using, how much they need to save, and of course, given that safety car being an opportunity for all of them to recharge the battery.
Oh, he's not got it.
Going through it already, very, very close, but you can see here that DRS coming into effect for the likes of Benzoni and Papinta being able to pull away, open up that gap a little bit more. Parodi, Van Bussel, and okay, they need to stop swapping around for me to read. And they just all somewhat have to understand the role they're in, understand we're going to have to DRS train to catch back up to the rest of the field, and then after that, they're free to fight. They're free to go for these risky moves. Maybe not around turn 7, 8, 9, 10. Maybe not there, but around the rest of the track, absolutely go for it. Why not? I don't see a reason. You shouldn't lose too much time out of the DRS. Absolutely go for it.
As we can see, Leo Lund on the rear of Nicholas Longay once again down towards turn number 5. When will he make the attack is the question on the rear of the Ferrari as they head into the braking zone. Further behind we can see Parodi once again on the rear of Van Bussel, and their gap now to the top 8 is 2 seconds. They're being gapped by the field, which is the last thing that they want. This is the last thing that they need, to be gapped by the rest of the field, and that gap to go up and up and up, lap by lap, as they head their way down towards turn 9. The thing that Van Bussel needs now is one of those in the top 7, top 8 to make a bit of a mistake and slow the train down a little bit to get themselves within a second once more. As obviously Flores tried it, got himself within a second, but got swamped down to turn 14, had a battle, and they lost even more time. As we can see, of course, still, it's Tiger Hardy who leads ahead of Keane Godendorp in second. That gap, 6 tenths of a second, and then Lillian Davenport in third, about 2 tenths behind the back of Keane as they head their way down to turn 14 once more. And actually, it seems Lillian might have a bit more a bit more straight line speed than Keane Godendorp as he's getting close to the rear of Keane, nearly taking the lead in towards turn 14. Tiger Hardy drops down to third, and they battle once again to turn 1 as Flores is back into the top 10.
Yes, looking solid for Flores. But with that gap opening between Daniele and Riccardo Benzoni, you would consider that this top 8 are surely going to be able to put the hammer down a little bit more, be able to pull away. And if it does come to fruition that one of them makes an error, they won't necessarily be directly vulnerable to P9 and the DRS there. But with credit being, credit being given out, let's give a little bit of a silver lining to Leo Lund. Yes, he had that contact with Ismail Fassi. Yes, he made a mistake, but he's able to keep his head, hold on to this P5 and be able to keep trying to pile pressure onto Nicholas Longay while holding back Ishan Pookie. It's unfortunate what's already happened in the race, but at the same time, being at that age and having the maturity just to keep his head down and keep racing, knowing he's going to get a penalty for it, is something that many drivers his age aren't able to do.
Well,
I say that as if many drivers his age are able to come and compete in E-Series. They can't. They're just not that good. But Leo, once again, showed maturity despite his young age.
Indeed, and I think, well, even though we did have a bit of an incident with Ishmael Fassi, I think if he decided, well, that's me drunk because I made an incident, I think the team would be very angry with him because they're still fighting for P4 technically in the standings, which if Lekomsky can try and work his way up a little bit more, maybe they can still do so and actually try and take the position off of RHG, who are in 5th at the moment, as they head down towards turn number 14 once more, and it will be Kian Goldendorp who loses position to Lillian and Tycho, and Nicholas Longate sits in 4th. That is all that happens. The person in 3rd takes 2nd, the person in 2nd takes 1st, and the person in 1st goes down to 3rd. It's just a cycle, isn't it? As both TF10s are in the top 10, Van Bussel's in P11 ahead of Flyers Fires as they head down towards turn 17, and there's Zelenkovic on the rear of Flyers Fires here for P12.
Yeah, there's battles breaking out all over the joint. King Gordon went defensive against Nicholas Longate. He decided to use a little bit of battery here for P3, having to sit back just a little bit, having another snap on the rear of that Ferrari. I'm not sure what it's running, but it's certainly not an SRC setup because you can see how loose it is at the rear, not necessarily being able to get the power down, not having the confidence to really try and go for that. But he is deploying a little bit more battery. Once again, just toying a little bit with Kian, forcing him to go into the offensive line. And then once again, moving back over to the left to take that optimal racing line, trying to maybe wiggle himself a little bit of racing room. But Kian being, again, another young driver who's experienced a lot of this inter-team racing, especially a part of the Williams family now. He's certainly got that level-headed sort of mentality he needs to understand exactly what Nicholas Longay and Istvan Pukki might try and do in this race to off-put him, to distract him from what's going on. But he knows he's just got to keep his head down. He's got to focus on his own race, and then it'll reap the benefits of that come later on towards lap, 22, 23, when his tyres can be in a slightly better piece of condition.
Of course, and still 10 laps left to go in this Las Vegas Grand Prix, and it will be Ray Switch that lead with Lillian Dabacourt, and well, it will be Tucker Hardy, and then it will be Kian Gordendorp into 2nd, ahead of Lillian Dabacourt in 3rd, and then of course Nicholas Longay in 4th, looking to close in as well with Leo Lund, and then further back we could see Benzoni on the rear of Pepinta. But so far, a brilliant race here in Las Vegas, and it could end quite sadly for many, I think. There'll be someone in the top 5 who gets treated unfairly on the final lap as they all look to swap and change into turn 1. Longay on the attack to get ahead of Dabacourt if he can, but we can see Doug Godard up defensively inside to not let Nicholas Longay through as they head their way down into turn 3. And this time it will be Dabacourt who has to defend from the back of Longay, and then Leo Lund is looking for an attack there down to turn 5. He's got the move ahead of Nicholas Longay, and it will be Leo Lund into the top 4 here.
Yeah, Longay had a massive snap on the exit of turn 4, trying to get the power down. Rio was really not happy at the back of that Ferrari. I'm not sure whether he's just got a little bit more deck towards the rear of the car, or whether he was just trying to be a little bit too eager and put the power down a little bit too earlier. But it's a very uncharacteristic mistake there from Nicholas Longay, giving Leo the opportunity to really seize the moment and grab himself P4 here. Real question is he going to be able to try and somewhat disrupt this top three's flow, especially heading down into turn 14? Considering now, Tycho Hardy is slowly starting to pull away. 8 tenths of a second now, the gap.
Indeed, as they head their way through in towards turn number 12, looking to try and close in. Is Nicholas Longay, of course, making a bit of a mistake, losing a position now, trying to retake that position once more. But Leo Lund is on the attack here of Lillian Dabacourt, looking to get himself into that top 3, which is something he would definitely like and something that the team would definitely like. As we can see, this time around, Lillian looks to take P2, and they actually don't catch up that quickly to the rear of Tiger Hardy. As they go side by side into turn 14, Lillian breaks later, makes a position ahead of Godendorp, and that allows Leo Lund to try and make a bit of a move here for P3, possibly, but can't quite get it done on the exit, as we can also see Nicholas Longay and Istvan Pukki and Pepinta look to try and get themselves ahead of each other.
Oh, this is going to be absolutely manic down into turn 1, isn't it? We got Leo there going over to the left-hand side, taking that inside line on Kian, going for that move. Very bold, very brave. Is he going to decide to try and squeeze the Williams car out? No, he doesn't have enough in the tank to really be able to pull alongside and give it a little bit of squeeze, but he will be able to try and straighten up the car a little bit quicker for this first DRS zone. You see him tucking back in behind Kian Gondorp. He might have PTSD of what happened the last time he tried to go down was inside of the Williams here, so decides just to hold back just a moment there. there. But again, you can see him trying to line up this overtake, but he's going very, very aggressive trying to line it up. And it does give Nicholas Longe and Istvan Pukki a little bit of a sniff and a little bit of an opportunity to try and reclaim that P4. And you know if they're going to sense any sort of blood in the water from a Veloce Academy team, Ferrari are certainly going to take it.
Of course, and still got a note at the in the other train, we've got Alex Santana that leads that train ahead of Jerry Van Bussel and Daniele Parodi in third in that train. Of course, in the race, it is P11, and Alex Santana will drop down due to his penalty, which I believe was for corner cutting. So I'm not sure if he had an incident with someone and that led him to go off the circuit to avoid. As they continue on down towards turn number 14 once more, and this time we can see Lenny Pinto looking to get involved here as the two Ferraris have to kind of block Pinto from passing. As we can see Davenport take the lead, Tiger Hardy drops into second, Jerry Van Bussel takes ninth, and I could see for a second Lenny Pinto actually, the car said like it couldn't do much more down towards that braking zone.
Yeah, the cars get absolutely maxed out at the top, miles per hour, kilometers per hour. The revolutions they're trying to make, the RPM of the car absolutely hitting the top, screaming at the top of its lungs, trying to find any sort of more rev to try and give the car that little bit of extra power heading down that long straight. It feels like it lasts forever, and the engine will get hotter and hotter the higher the revs are, and it'll burn more and more fuel. So it's imperative that these drivers understand we've got to move out for clear air, and you can see that certainly happening along this first DRS straight. It's not necessarily long enough to be able to get a fantastic run heading into turn 5, so you will see cars somewhat shipping out of the slipstream, going for more of a drafting effect like you would see in NASCAR. Half of the car in, half the car out, just to make sure they can get as much clean air back into the engine as possible to cool it down just a little bit more.
Indeed, as they head their way through into turn 10 once more, and it is still Davenport that leads ahead of Tiger Hardy in second, and actually that gap is going up quite a lot. It's 6/10 now as they head their way through in towards the next braking zone, and of course the two Ferraris sitting in P5 and P6 need to get a double podium here tonight, and for Keane to drop lower than 5th for them to take the championship, and that also depends on where S7R finishes. They also need to beat, I think that Ferrari need to gap them by 42 points here in tonight's race for them to be out of contention for the championship as they head down to turn 14. This time we've got Leo Lund on the attack. Davenport under pressure once more, this time from more than 3 drivers. Davenport's down to P4, Leo Lund's into P3, looking to try and take second bit of contact with the Williams as they head their way through into turn 14 and 15. Bad exit for both. That allows Davenport to make it 3 wide into turn 17, and also we can see what Istvan Pukki can do as well as they head down to turn 17. Deb calls up the inside. Istvan goes to the inside as well to make it 3 wide into turn number 1. Who will take P number 3? It will be closer contact. It's going to be Pukki into P4. That's going to be Nico going out wide. Pinto down to P6, looking to try and close in on his teammate.
Yep, Pinto's trying to hold it around the outside of Nicholas Longe. He's going to get a better exit there. Brilliant move from Pinto, moving himself up into P6. Very opportunistic, and Leo Lund here going ultra defensive on Istvan Pukki, trying to defend that P3. He's going to get the inside line, so surely you'd think he's going to be able to hold on to that position. The real question is for how long. You can see that red light flashing. The rest of the drivers around him have so much more battery to deploy than him, and Istvan Pukki takes that opportunity as soon as he possibly can up the inside at turn 7. He's going to lose a little bit of time to the backing King Gordondor, but I'm sure he won't necessarily mind that one too much, knowing that the DRS straight is practically right around the corner for him with one more braking zone. All he has to do is deploy a little bit more battery, and that slipstream and DRS will carry him all the way back up to their main rival in this championship, of course, being the sole Williams car of King Gordondor. Real question is, how much more can these tyres give? Because they are racing hell for leather at the moment. 11 lap old mediums, you would surely consider they'd be at least dropping off, if not have already dropped off at this point, not being the most friendliest of tyre to be on.
Of course, it's going to be close, isn't it, to the end of who hits drop-off first. That's going to be one of the main things. Obviously, there's different stages of drop-off, and that's going to affect many as we go 3-1 into turn 14. That won't end well. Who's going to come out ahead? It will be Lillian ahead of Leo, ahead of Istvan Pukki as they head out to the penultimate corner down towards turn number 1 again, and Ferrari being knocked backwards now down to P6 and P7. Now down to P6 and P8 is Riccardo Benzoni. Goes into the top 7, and now it's a race cut 3-4 as they head to turn 1, all swapping and changing to the inside, to the outside. It's Longe back into P5, and now Benzoni fine for P6 here with Lund as they head through into turn 3 and turn 4. A bit of contact with Lund and Benzoni allows Istvan Pukki to try and get back up the inside and get himself back into P7. They pull alongside, but has to drop back for a bit behind just for now. Can't quite pull alongside as we can see Leo Lund there looking for a bit of a move on Longe.
Yeah, it wasn't really on there, was it, for Leo to try and go for that move into turn 5? Probably having reminiscing thoughts about what happened with Ishmael first and decided just to abandon it there just for the moment. But we can see one driver who's certainly not trying to abandon it is Ishvan Pookie, looking to try and go over the inside of turn 7, trying to catch Benzoni napping a little bit, but Benzoni was wise to it. He saw it coming, was able to cover it off relatively well, but he has lost a little bit of touch here with the likes of Leoland and Nicholas Longue slightly further in front. But meanwhile, while all that scrapping was going on, Keaton Gordondorp retook for the lead, and he's going to be looking to try and break away as fast as possible. Now he's got a large buffer of 3 cars in between himself and the lead Ferrari car. Could potentially be a great opportunity to really try and scamper away here, but the DRS will just pull every single one of these drivers back in closer and closer to one another until we might even see another 3 wide moment heading through there. It is going to be so close.
As they're flying down towards turn 14 once more, and we can see as well that gap between Jerry and Daniele just swapping around constantly, just moving position between P9 and P10, and those guys I think are out of this. I don't think they're going to get back into this top 8 train at all. They tried it for 10 laps, can't get it to do, so they'll have to just stick where they are for now and fight for P9 and below. But the main battle here is for the lead, and everyone so far in this train has been in and around that top 3 throughout these last 10 laps, which shows that one move from someone can cause such a bit of a domino effect and cause people to lose and gain position so much. You can't really call here who could win this race in Las Vegas. Lap 21 and 25, it's flew by. These few laps have indeed, with all the battling happening through the first and final sector. And well, Race Clutch, remember, they are still technically fighting for the championship. They're 80 points back from Ferrari. They're 3rd and 4th at the moment. They might not take first.
Oh my God, Leo.
But Leo Lund sends it on the back of Nicholas Longue towards turn number 7.
I mean, he tried something. I'm not sure it was the right thing to try, but he certainly tried something. He would have lost a little bit of pace there, which will give Benzoni a brilliant opportunity here to try and take the car around the outside of 10. It'll turn to the inside of 11 and 12. Brilliant move there from Benzoni, picking up the scraps there from Leland's attempt at an overtake into turn 7. Didn't come to fruition, but at the same time, you've got to consider all of this happening. Istvan Pookie is going to get a brilliant run on Leo as well, and Leo with very little battery left in the tank here. Really, I'm wondering what else he can put up here to try and fight with this top pack, because it is looking like he is trying to fight a losing battle. As you can see in the background there, all the drivers in that second train swapping for the lead, going 2 wide once again with Timo Zlenkovic and Alex Santana. It's all breaking out everywhere. But oh my God, these top 4 have closed up to one another again.
Oh, and they're going to head into turn 1, fighting. Santana's made a mistake. He's gone round. Zalambita's gone round as well. In towards turn 14. I looked at it for a second and I saw something was going to happen, and unfortunately it did. And it was TF10 that came off in the worst part of that battle. As we can see, once more, Race Clutch defend from Ferrari here for P3 and P4 as Alex Santana is into the pit lane now. He'll be going probably onto a set of the softs to try and get the fastest lap to take him to the end of the race. As we can see, Leo Lund started to drop back here from this pack. 4 tenths is the gap between him and Pookie for a second here. So maybe Leo is done with this battle for the top 7 just for now. As we can see Longate looking to also make a move here on the back of Pepinta. Of course, back in PCF2 last night, Pepinta did take a win in Brazil. So looking on fine form so far in general on this F123 game is Lenny Pepinta. And then, of course, his teammate Lilian Dabakor also did a very good race last night in F2. So carrying on some strong momentum here into E-Series and no matter the track. Looking to perform well here is the Race Clutch team. And then, of course, at the front, it's Tiger Hardy, who's just been impeccable all race long.
Absolutely stellar up at the front. Very much reminiscent of what he's been the entire season. He's been absolutely close enough to perfect. Almost every single race he's been competing in. Just getting up there, getting the handful of points F7R needs, and he's certainly doing a brilliant job here. Understanding the role he's playing, he's not defending these positions, he's not looking to go gung-ho, really go on the offensive. Paced himself in a brilliant manner, as we will see once again another swap for the lead here. But Lenny Pepinta, he's closing up to his teammate. Could we potentially see team orders come through here, as we are seeing the Ferraris having a bit of team orders, giving each other a slipstream for Istvan Pookie to try and get the run on Benzoni. But is it going to be enough heading all the way down in turn 1? It absolutely will. Istvan Pookie down the inside, easy as you would like. Hold up, Benzoni around the outside here? Surely not. Right, okay, good. Camera had me fall for a moment there. I thought I was about to see it.
Went for it.
But he certainly did. He went for it. But team orders now between the Race Clutch and Ferrari team. Do you want the driver with the more battery at the front to try and pull you along, or would you prefer him at the back to deploy the battery in a defensive manner?
Well, when
For me, I don't know.
well, when they're battling that close, Josh, I think they've got a matter of just having the position ahead. I don't think they've got to bother who's in front. I think they've just got to make sure that the cars behind aren't trying to make overtakes. Because when you're in a position like this, team orders is probably one of the last things you need to think about. Because if you slow down a slight bit to let your teammate pass, another one goes, oh, thank you, I'll pop through as well and get myself into a position higher. So they just got to try and pull each other along, and maybe if they want to do a bit of team orders, pull a gap and then do it. But at this point, it's going to be very unlikely that they will even think about doing so, as the stakes are very high here in this race, and maybe we'll see what Race Culture can do here. Of course, Limpa Pinter is gaining in naturally, but loses back as they head down towards turn 14. And actually, Pinter's lost a lot of time off of his teammates, so maybe different setups being run here for the two Race Cultures, as it will be Hardy who leads ahead of Lillian Derbacourt, ahead of King Golden up in third, and Pinter looking to make ascend into turn 14 to the inside. Can't quite get it done. Scared Golden up for a second, but still remains in P4. And then Nicholas Longate, with a decent run, could look to make a move ahead here at Pinter down towards turn 1. Using a bit of battery there was Longate, and I don't think he can make it work. Actually, he might, because he's burning the battery to the outside. Goes Longate. Can he make the move into P4 ahead of Pinter? He can't. Nearly taps the back of the Williams as they head through in towards turn number 1.
Yeah, he's certainly doing a very stellar job to try and fight for that position. Pinterbear thought Longay wasn't going to be alongside too far, but Longay was able to sneak more than just his front wing alongside, able to get that move sorted, heading through turn 4. Brilliant stuff there from Nicholas Longay, moving himself up into P4. And he's certainly going to be looking to try and help his teammate out wherever he can to get Ferrari even more points in this championship, to try and carry himself even further along. But have you noticed a certain someone down there in P8 rejoined the back of his party? It'll be Leo Lund down the inside of Riccardo Benzoni. Benzoni should be in absolutely no mood to be able to put up with this and try and battle for this position. Because at the end of the day, the more these two battle, the more likely it is that the cars behind will be able to slowly catch up. You can see Jerry Van Bussel now 2.3 seconds behind. He's pulling along Daniele Parodi with him. It's certainly been very, very close throughout this entire race, and now we're going to see those hard tyres really come into effect, being more predominant and being a more effective tyre over this medium compound.
Oh,
surely.
Hardy's gapped.
Oh dear. Well, that's no DRS for Lillian.
Oh,
Lillian's going to get swallowed up here. Yeah, we've already got Kian, we've got Longay. Are we going to see Papenta try and get a run through there? No. Papenta just a little bit too far back this time. But Tycho Hardy, you see that the gap didn't last for long, did it?
No.
Already back down to 6/10 of a second, purely down to the slipstream, battery deployment. This race has been fantastic, and I don't want to say we're on the final lap of this race, but someone has to.
Yeah, and we're on the final lap there, Josh. And what a race it's been so far. And any of these guys in the top 6 can win, I think. I think any of those in the top 6 can make it, because one mistake from one into a braking zone could lose 3 or 4 positions and could promote someone up quite a few. And Riccardo Benzoni's nearly been gapped by the top 6 here, very close to just hanging onto the DRS as they head down to turn number 5. Derbacourt on the attack of Longate, doesn't want the thrower to get the podium. He wants to get the podium after he fought for it all race long here as they enter in towards turn 7 for the final time, Josh. And well, what about this could be to the end?
Certainly. So I'm not in high hopes for Tycho Hardy here. Leading this race, he's had a phenomenal race so far, but leading on the final lap around a circuit like Las Vegas, it's like playing Russian roulettes with 6 shots in the barrel. It's not ideal, and I don't feel like there's a possible way he's going to be able to win this race unless he does something very strategical, and he might have just done that, trying to back up the rest of the field, causing them to have a little bit of a squabble, trying to ruin their exit.
No!
Well, we've got 3-4 wide there with a bit of contact. It's all going off at the minute.
Well, they're heading down towards turn 14 for the final time. Look at this, as 8 cars battling for the lead of the race. What a battle this is. Down towards the final couple of corners, 4 wide, in towards turn 14. They're all swamping down to the braking zone. Hardy sends it, and he makes contact with the wall nearly, and also that'll be Papinta getting caught up in that. He leads down towards the final corner. Papinta leads the race, and he will be looking to take victory here for Race Cushion. It will be Lenny Papinta who takes victory here in Las Vegas, and Tycho Hardy will finish second. It will be third for Nicholas Longay, fourth for Derbacourt, fifth for Golden Up, and it will be Istvan Picky who drops down to P7. And that is going to be the most chaotic final lap I've seen ever. Actually, 8 cars battling for one position. 8.
Well, I'm not sure what to say there, because that was phenomenal. If that's not going on TikTok, I'm not sure what is, because that was a fantastic battle all the way from the exit of turn 12, trying to back up the field, play a little bit of DRS chicken. Tycho Hardy did almost everything he possibly could, tried to send it as late as he could into turn 14. fair enough for trying, PT. I'm sure the stewards will have a look at it, though, either way. But my word, what a fantastic end to a fantastic race overall. That entire top 8 battling for the lead, all of them been squabbling throughout this entire race, but one man was able to come out on top. And, of course, that would be your prediction for one and only Lenny Papinta.
Well, I predicted him at the start, and he won it. Brilliant job from Lenny, of course, to take the top honours. And Tiger Hardy second after quite a chaotic end into the race. And I've seen a lot of people lifting off and brake checking in the last couple of days. Again, tonight, as we can see as well, Nicholas Longate in third and Debecourt in P4 for the Red Scotch team. It will be Golden up in fifth, Lund in P6, Pookie 7th, Benzoni 8th, Van Bussel 9th, and Daniele Parodi from last to 10th. Brilliant job from the TF10 driver. And then we have Nelson Alves in P11, followed by Wilson Hall in 12th, Lekomsky 13th, Forrest Fires in P14, Timi Zelenkovic in 15th position, ahead of Zelenbida and Alan Banashak, Louis Welch in 18th, Alex Santana 19th, and of course we did lose Ishmael Fassi earlier on in this race. But, well, I want to hear from our top 3, but I'm very scared to hear the words that will come out of their mouths, but we'll try and ask for them to pop in, because it'd be very nice indeed, wouldn't it, Josh?
Yes, but in the meantime, while we are waiting for him to try and pop in, I feel like now would be the perfect time to show you the reason why all the drivers are so comfortable to race that aggressively with one another. It's because they're using GT Omega, mate. It's fantastic. Check them out.
We'll try and get a word from our top 3, if we can.
Oh,
And
okay.
We'll
Let's
see.
have a look.
We'll see if anyone pops in the waiting room. We've got ourselves onto the interview screen, so I don't leak the Discord again like I've done on many different occasions. And, well, the last time I did it, it was Yana Martin's eating a burger.
Well, I mean, as far as leaks go, I'm sure that's not the worst one.
Yes,
in
definitely
the F1 sim racing community
Definitely
by
not.
any means. Having a little look here.
No one just yet, but I suppose I need time to calm down.
Yeah, I would certainly need to go outside, have a couple deep breaths of air, maybe an entire cold shower, come back out, sit in front of a webcam and think, I'm still mad, I don't want to talk to anyone. Certainly the apple juice would be coming out, that's all I'm saying. But no, realistically, overall a fantastic race regardless, end-to-end action. Had 2 packs, unfortunately it wasn't a 20-car wide battle for the last lap there down into T14. Would be interesting. As we do have confirmation from Lenny, not available for an interview, probably going straight into the debrief. We know how hard these drivers will work with their teams to really try and maximise every sort of result. They'll be looking and asking so many questions, trying to think about what's happened there, what's gone on.
Indeed.
Because wow.
We'll see if we can get a word. Normally it takes them a while, but if not, we'll leave it. And just hopefully to hear from them. But what a chaotic race. Absolutely brilliant. I think, listen, was it clean? Nah, not really. Do we know it wasn't clean? I think everyone knows it wasn't clean. I think the drivers themselves know it wasn't clean. But was it brilliant? Was it entertaining? Was it brilliant for the viewers? Yes. And I certainly enjoyed it. As a commentator, as a driver, I would hate it. But I'm not a driver, and I know I won't be. So I'll just sit back and watch the action unfold. And I don't think that we will get an interview tonight from anyone, which is actually quite rare. We normally see an interview from at least one driver, but no hard feelings. It sometimes happens. So we will be ending it here, Josh, I believe. We'll move ourselves back to the camera screens, and this time I'm going to make sure I do put you on the screen and not the Discord
Yes,
chat,
me. Hello,
as we can try and move it all back on and try and sort out my PC, which needs sorting out because there's things everywhere. Right. There we are. We're back. Hello, everyone. My face is red because I was absolutely screaming on that final lap. It was brilliant. Brilliant. But,
I've got a sweat on.
The penultimate round is over. What is the gap between Williams, Ferrari, and F7R? Don't have a clue.
Hold the phone.
We have
hold
someone
the
in
phone.
here.
We've got the one and only, the race winner, Lenny Papinta.
We'll drag him in. Welcome
We already
in,
have.
mate.
Welcome.
Hello.
So you changed your mind?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Josh, take it away.
I mean, that last lap, what on earth happened? How did you come out of that with the lead?
That was pretty unexpected to be honest, because Tycho just braked before the DRS detection, so I just had to take the advantage of that and try to keep the P1 until the line.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you did a fantastic job, especially on that final lap. But leading up to that, we saw yourself and your race clutch teammate both working very effectively together. You and Derbecourt were, simultaneously matching each other, trading a little bit of ERS here and there. Was that something you originally planned on if you was next to each other during the race, or was it sort of spur of the moment, talking to one another and thinking, right, this can work, this is how we can get the jump on them, this is how we can hold off Ferrari?
No, it was planned from the beginning to work together to try to gain as much as we can. But yeah, it worked pretty well, to be honest. So really happy with this performance. Really happy for the team and just trying to maximize the performance.
Absolutely. And with that result, and of course, one of the Williams cars not finishing a race, I'm not sure how much you saw of what happened with Ishmael, but you will have closed the gap on the likes of F7R and Williams, and I do believe Ferrari as well. Do you think you're still potentially in contention to try and go for that third place, or maybe even second place in the championship? Of course, with only the one round left being into Lagos. Are you feeling confident there? Is the team feeling confident there?
Yeah, the third place was always the goal before the race. Even when we see the championship, it was the goal. So I think we pretty managed to do this well. And yeah, maybe the second place, but I don't know how it is looking in the championship, but we'll try to do our best in Interlagos.
Yeah, it's very, very close up at the top of the championship now as well. But yeah, next week, the finale, Interlagos. Are you looking to end it on a high note? Are we going to get a back-to-back Lenny Pinto win?
I will hope to have a second win in a row, but I don't know how it will be. So maybe.
Okay.
We'll see.
So we've heard it here first, everyone. Nathan Richards as the witness. Lenny Pinto's going to get a 1-2 by 20 seconds around Interlagos. But no, altogether, an absolute stellar race, mate. Congratulations on your win. Nathan was bigging you up all throughout the entire stream, saying he won last night, he's going to do great tonight, and you certainly did. Nathan, anything else to add on your half?
Yes, again, Elite, congratulations on the win. Like I said to you last night in Brazil. And if you can show your pace you did there, I'm sure you've definitely got a chance next week, if you do race, of course, of taking a victory or a podium for Race once again. So, yet again, congratulations to yourself and Lillian on the P1 and P4. And hopefully we see you both again next week. So have a good one, mate.
Thank you.
And right there we are, Josh. We come to the end of our interview stage. We'll move ourselves, yes, again, back to the intermission
There we go.
Intermission screen.
Right.
There we are.
I'm waiting for another one of the drivers to hop in. I'm sensing it.
It's not going to happen this time. I'm not going to tell them no. We've waited too long. They've had 10 minutes to join. But, what a race that was. Brilliant to end off the penultimate round of the E-Series Championship, of course, to end off the penultimate round of the game, pretty much, isn't it? Obviously, we've got next week back in E-Series. Of course, we've got next week as well for the normal season, of course, on Kota. So two brilliant races for Thursday and Friday, and that is it then, isn't it? Pretty much for PSGL,
other than
the PS
we've got
as well.
PlayStation Division on the Monday after that. We will be the penultimate stream on F1 23 for PSGL. That's insane to think.
Yeah, it's gone very quick, this game cycle has. Maybe because the game's been better than the last game, but this game cycle's flew by. And of course, F1 24 very close to being released, just around a month and a week-ish, month and a week and a half, until that game is with us. And, well, I'm sure PSG will be back once more with that. Of course, we're not at the final bit yet, but of course it's still sad to leave a game cycle, no matter what, isn't it? Because you had so many memories over this game, but we've still got one round to go next week, Josh. The championship is between, I believe, actually, the top four. I actually think it's between them all. So
you just can't make it up.
We're going to get, I think it's realistically, though, between Ferrari and Williams. So out of those two, who's going to win it?
Right, hold on. Let me just carry the two. Ferrari.
That's fair. I think they got the most chance of doing it.
Yes.
I'm going to go with, you know what? F7R. I'm going to go different. Okay. The Lenny Pinto, it wasn't a curse for him to win. It was a praise. So I'm going to do it again for F7R. I'm going to say they are going to take the championship. But then again, that's all going to be decided, of course, next Friday in Brazil, which is going to be yet again another chaotic race. And this time it's going to be fighting even more, because this time it is for the championship. It's not for being in contention. It is for the E-Series Season 3 championship. So, of course, that is all from me and Josh here tonight in E-Series. We'll be back next Friday for the finale round in Brazil. So, of course, have a good one, and we'll see you then next week. So, until then, goodbye.